For the Mets, left-hander Sid Fernandez, who is 2-0 with an ERA of 2.66. And on the mound for the Reds, it's right-hander Bill Gullickson, 0-2 with an ERA of 3.10.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kinder, along with Tim McCarver and Steve Zabriskie, all set for the first game of this series with the Cincinnati Reds. Reds have fallen on hard times so far this year. They have lost 5 in a row. They're in last place in the Western Division. The Mets have a record going of 11 wins in their last 12 ball games, and they have won 6 of 7 on this road trip. And the Mets in first place, and they are leading by 4.5 games. And Tim McCarver, Reds a little bit of a surprise because they had picked the team to be a real contender.
Yeah, especially with the injury to Pedro Guerrero of the Dodgers. I think a lot of people thought that the Cincinnati Reds would win. Of course, it's still early in the season, but I think what you have here tonight, you have two teams going in opposite directions. The Mets, as you said, have won 11 of 12. The Reds are 5-12. They've lost 5 in a row, and I mean 5 in a row, and Pete Rose is very much concerned about that. And
Pete Rose, who is the playing manager of the Cincinnati Reds, has not had a hit this year, and that is a surprise.
Well, of course, he's opened the season on the DL. Steve Zabriskie had a great line. He said, how does it feel to be the only guy with 4,000 hits and be 0 for April? I thought that was a great line.
And we'll be back with the ball game in just a moment, right after this message from Busch Beer. Pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. He had spent his major league career with the Montreal Expos. Bill now going for the Reds, and he comes into this ball game with a record of no wins and 2 losses, an earned run average of 3.10. He has had 1 complete game, and he has worked 20 1/3 innings, giving up 16 hits, 3 of them home runs, walking 9 and striking out 3. Bill Gullickson.
And the lineup for the Mets, Len Dykstra leading off and playing center field. Wally Backman, the second baseman, batting second. Keith Hernandez at first base, hitting third. Gary Carter, the catcher, batting fourth. And Darryl Strawberry with his first 5-for-5 night ever the other night in Atlanta. He'll hit fifth. George Foster in left field, batting sixth. Ray Knight, who had a torrid April, batting .308 and tied for the league lead in home runs with 6. He's playing third and batting seventh. Howard Johnson, another interesting experiment of Davy Johnson, playing shortstop tonight. Howard, if you'll remember, a couple of days ago had a brilliant defensive shortstop game. And Sid Fernandez, batting ninth.
And the umpires for the game tonight, Lee Wire back of home plate. Dutch Rennett, the umpire at first base. Dick Stella will be at second base. And Fred Brocklander, the umpire at third. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and WRTV, and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and WRTV is prohibited. Well, the Mets with a record of 13-4, the best in baseball. They are 4.5 games up, and the Reds come in with a record of 5-12, and they trail by 7.5 games. For the Mets, it'll be Len Dykstra as the leadoff batter. Len, a red-hot center fielder for the New York Mets, replacing Mookie Wilson in center field. Mookie has been in a rehabilitation program down at Tidewater, where the Mets have their #1 farm club. There is Pete Rose, the playing manager of Cincinnati. He is not playing in the ball game here tonight.
As a matter of fact, Pete did not start against left-handed pitchers all of last year. A guy who could handle left-handed pitchers while he was playing, Davy Johnson. Davy still bothered by that bad back, huh?
Davy having a very tough time with his back. Mets will be playing a 3-game series with the Cincinnati Reds. Then they'll go to Lynchburg to play their farm club on Monday, and then return home to open up at Shea Stadium for their next homestand. And Bill Gullickson with his first delivery, and Dykstra bunts it. It's in the air, but it will drop in foul territory.
See Buddy Bell right there. It's a good idea. Even though Bell was shallow, Buddy Bell has a broken middle finger on his right hand, still in there. Lenny Dykstra and the Mets know that. There's the great Shotzi, huh?
The great Shotzi, the dog owned by the owner of the Cincinnati Reds, Marge Schott. 1 strike to count. And Gullickson with an off-speed pitch, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike.
Shotzi's in the media guide, too, of the Cincinnati Reds. Occupies a quarter of a page.
Understand that Shotzi eats up here in the press room. I don't know how he signs the book when you register in, though.
The paw print.
2-1 the count on Len Dykstra. Dykstra with a .406 on base percentage, and that's very, very good, especially for a leadoff batter. He's 8th in the National League in that department. He takes a fastball high. Len hitting .321 for the year with 1 home run and 5 RBIs. Gullickson noted for his control and behind 3-1 right here. In his career, he has averaged only 2.1 walks per 9 innings. And there's his first walk against his first batter.
See, that's what Dykstra will do, and that's how he has been igniting these Mets over their last 12 ball games. They've won 11, of course. And Len Dykstra has been on via a hit or a walk in 14 of 15 games now. He was taken all the way on that three. No idea about swinging at that ball.
Well, he fights to get on base. A fine leadoff batter, and that brings up Wally Backman. And Wally also a hot batter, hitting .361. That would put him at 2nd place on the list of top hitters in the National League. He actually does not qualify, as he's not had enough at-bats. He has been up only 36 times, hitting .361 with no home runs and 2 RBIs. Dykstra fakes it going. The ball hit by the first baseman, Tony Perez, and Dykstra off to third. No play on Dykstra. The throw into second base, and the Mets have runners at 1st and 3rd with no one out.
I think Len Dykstra and Wally Backman, when they're not playing baseball during the offseason, should be busboys or bus persons, I should say, at a restaurant, because really nobody sets a table better than these two guys. That's the truth. I mean, you look up, you always see these guys on base.
Dykstra not running. He pulls up right here. Now he sees the ball hit, and he's on his way.
Parker had to go to his left for the ball in right field, and that allowed Dykstra easily to go to third base.
And it brings up Keith Hernandez. Keith hitting an even .300, no home runs, 8 runs batted in. Keith with a current 6-game hitting streak, hitting .360 over the 6 games. Infield, a double play depth at short and second, and there's a strike call.
You see Sal Butera behind the plate this time. In Gullickson's last ball game, he lost 1-0 against the Houston Astros on a pass ball when Bo Diaz was catching. Matter of fact, Diaz had 2 in that inning. 1 unearned run for the Astros to lose 1-0 down at the Dome.
And Keith fouls off the fastball, so it's strike 2. Hernandez with a .309 batting average last season with 10 home runs and 91 RBIs, set a record for game-winning RBIs with 24 as you look at Gary Carter. Runners at 1st and 3rd, just underway, no one out in Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. And the runner going, the high fastball thrown in the dirt. And on the play, Wally Backman comes up with a stolen base.
I don't know if Butera was doing this by design, but it almost looked as though he were using the rug. And Davey Concepcion knows about that, doesn't he?
Uses that rug to throw the ball on 1 bounce.
And that's what Butera did. Concepcion the first to do that, and they almost had Backman at second base. Wally with his 3rd stolen base of the year.
So now runners at 2nd and 3rd and no one out. And the count at 1 ball and 2 strikes. I've always advocated that it'd be a good play for a catcher to do on this artificial turf.
It sure looked like Butera was doing it there, but they still didn't get Backman.
And this one hit to left field. It'll be a base hit. Extra bases. The ball down the line and into the stands. A grounds rule double, and 2 runs will score. Dykstra scoring, and then Backman, and the Mets leading 2-0.
Ralph, how many times have we seen this superb hitter, Keith Hernandez, with 2 strikes, go the other way? Fastball, Gullickson tried to come in, but the ball just wouldn't do it. Hernandez protecting away and gets RBIs number 9 and 10 on the year. Dykstra and Backman scoring easily because it's a ground rule double. That's the easiest way to score when you're on second base.
No play at all.
You can walk home.
You can crawl home. You can do anything you want. That brings up Gary Carter and the curveball for called strike. Hernandez extending this hitting streak to 7 consecutive games with that base hit. Carter hitting .273. He is the only batter, including the pitcher, in the lineup hitting under .300 for the New York Mets. Carter with 3 home runs, 19 runs batted in. And this ball hit high in the air. Left fielder Nick Osaski making the play. Hernandez back to second base, and the Reds get their first out of the game.
Yeah, and you see Gary Carter up there with no attempt to try to hit the ball the other way, and that's the proper approach. You don't want your number 4 hitter trying to move a runner to third base for the number 5 guy. He's paid to drive in runs. He just got up under that one a little bit.
Absolutely don't want him hitting behind the runner. So now we'll see Darryl Strawberry come up, and they're going to walk him intentionally. Strawberry with the intentional walk to set up the double play and bring up George Foster, who was a hometown hero many, many years for the Cincinnati Reds.
It's funny, Ralph. I remember having a meeting back in 1979, Pete Rose's first year with the Phillies, and we were teammates. And Pete said that George Foster is a slugger. And Carlton was pitching that night, and he said, I'd pitch around him. I said, with bench hitting next? I said, bench hits lefty better than anybody. And Pete and I had a rather heated discussion about whether to pitch to Foster or not. Well, that night, Carlton walked Foster 3 times, and Bench got 3 hits. and it wasn't by design to walk Foster that night. We ended up winning the ball game, but Pete and I have talked about that since many times.
All right, here, Strawberry is walked to get to George Foster. Foster hit .300 against the Reds last year with 2 home runs and 6 runs batted in. Foster hitting .314 with no home runs this year, and he has driven in 5. Runners at first and second, 1 man out. The Mets leading 2-0, top of the first inning. And the breaking ball outside for ball 1. Foster hit 52 home runs for the Cincinnati Reds and also was an MVP for the Reds.
Back in '77.
On deck batter Ray Knight. And Foster gets a called strike against him. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 breaking balls to George Foster.
2 ways that right-handed pitchers try to pitch George. They try to pitch him high, tight fastballs off the plate, and then when they get ahead, they go to the breaking ball. Gullickson has an excellent curveball. Very, very sharp and late breaking.
Goes to the fastball, and it's fouled back out of play. Gullickson, not a strikeout pitcher, but at one time he set a record for strikeouts. He struck out 18 Cubs as a rookie, and no rookie pitcher has ever struck out that many.
Hard to believe his ratio this year. He's now walked 10 while striking out only 3, and you can look for the curveball right here. See if Foster's going to look for it.
Runners at first and second.
Nope, going with the heat inside.
And he gets it. Oh, Foster called out on strikes. The first strikeout for Gullickson. Only his 4th strikeout in 20 innings.
Ralph, this pitch would have got you and me too, would it? We were both looking breaking ball, weren't we?
I would have been looking breaking ball.
I would have. That was a good sequence of pitching by Bill Gullickson, or pitches. 2 curveballs and then 2 fastballs. And that last one right on the black inside.
And it brings up Ray Knight. Knight hitting .308 with 6 home runs, tied for the National League lead, and 13 RBIs. Ray leads the league in slugging percentage at .712. And the slider for a ball. Ray started his major league career right here in Cincinnati, and he had the distinction of replacing Pete Rose at third base, and had a fine year when he replaced him, hitting over .300. Pete Rose moved on to Philadelphia. And a ground ball hit by the third baseman. A base hit for Knight. Coming around from second is Hernandez, and the throw not in time, and Keith slides in with a 3rd run for the New York Mets. So a clutch 2-out base hit by Ray Knight, and the Mets are leading by a score of 3-0.
reason those 2-out hits are so important psychologically is the runner, for the most part, won't score unless you get a hit. And that's why that 2-out base hit's much more important to a team than a base hit with none or 1 out to score a run. Naturally, you'll take both of them, but it gives the team a big psychological lift.
Saski's throw, not a strong throw.
Normally a third baseman. And that is the normal problem infielders have when they go to the outfield. Their arm really isn't stretched out enough to make those good long throws from the outfield.
So, Strawberry at second base, Knight at first base, and the batter will be Howard Johnson, the 8th man to bat in this inning. Johnson hitting .357, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. And the fastball low. The Mets lead major league teams in hitting as a team with a .288 team average. And here in this first inning, they have added on to that, scoring 3 runs on 3 hits. And a little change of pace there. Howard Johnson way out in front. They count 1 ball and 1 strike. Playing shortstop in tonight's ball game, normally a third baseman. And the fastball is fouled off. That puts the count at 1 ball and 2 strikes.
So that's what Gullickson did. He took something off the fastball on the 1-0 count, and then even though a guy's a fastball hitter, and certainly Howard is that, you throw it to him when he least expects it.
On deck batter, Sid Fernandez. Already staked to a 3-run lead. Strawberry at second base. Knight the runner at first. And the curveball inside.
A lot of young pitchers, Ralph. That's what, going back to those meetings again. A lot of guys say, well, this guy's a fastball hitter, and young pitchers think that's all they got to throw him is breaking stuff. You can't do that. You can't take your best pitch out of your arsenal. The thing you do is throw it at a time when the hitter least expects it.
2-2. And the off-speed pitch again, and a good play on it by Butera, the catcher.
That's one big reason Steve Carlton used to say that he didn't want to attend any meetings. He said because by the time he leaves, he's found out that he can't get anybody out in the order. They hit everything he throws. He says, so why go to him?
And usually the meetings are high inside fastballs and low outside curveballs.
Yeah, of course, that's going to get anybody.
That's right.
High, tight, low, and away. Doubleday said that back in 1839.
That's been going on since they started playing baseball here in Cincinnati in 1876. Cincinnati Reds, the first professional baseball team. 3-2 the count. The runners will be going with the pitch. They go, and the ball is hit foul. So Howard Johnson keeps the count at 3-2 with a foul ball, and they'll do it all over again.
I think it'd be interesting to have baseball meetings rather than go over the weaknesses of the hitters, where a team would concentrate on the strengths of the pitchers and tell him everything that he can do well and forget about the weaknesses of the hitter. I think that'd be an innovative approach and a good one.
I happen to agree with you about meetings. They really don't mean a whole lot if they're conducted the normal way.
Yeah, they implant a lot of negative thoughts.
Again, the runners go, and again the 3-2 pitch, and he strikes him out. So Gullickson strikes out 2, but he gives up 3 runs on 3 hits, and he leaves 2. And the score at the end of 1/2 inning, the Mets 3, Cincinnati Reds coming up. Now here's a word from Oldsmobile. The New York Mets sit with a record of 2-0, an earned run average of 2.66. He has had 3 game starts, and he has worked 20 1/3 innings. He has given up only 6 hits in the 20 1/3 innings. No home runs. He has walked 12 and struck out 20. Sid Fernandez.
And the lineup for the Reds, the fine center fielder. If he puts it all together, it's going to be some talent. Eric Davis leading off. Dave Concepcion, the shortstop, batting second. Dave Parker, the runner-up in the MVP award last year, batting third. Tony Perez, the first baseman, hitting fourth. What a story he is. His 22nd year in Major League Baseball. Nick Osaski, the left fielder, batting fifth. Buddy Bell playing third and batting sixth. Sal Butera, the catcher, hitting seventh. Second baseman Ron Oster, a local product from Cincinnati, batting eighth. And Bill Gullickson, the pitcher, batting ninth.
So Sid Fernandez, who comes into this ball game with his last 2 game starts, 2 hitters. In both of those games, he won 8 innings and gave up only 2 hits in each game. And the first batter, Eric Davis, who has an awful lot of power. But his problem has been making contact. So far this year, he's hitting 185. Out of his 10 hits, he's hit 3 home runs, and he's driven in 6. And the fastball for ball 1. Davis last year hit 246 with 8 home runs and 18 runs batted in. He had 3 home runs in his last 4 ball games in September. This ball hit out to right field. Strawberry is there. So Darrell on the warning track puts it away. And that's 1 away. And that'll bring up the veteran Dave Concepcion. Dave hitting at 175 for the year. He's had 2 home runs and 9 runs batted in. His next home run will be his 100th in his major league career. Last year he hit 252 with 7 home runs and 48 RBIs. Has an idea about bunting a strike. The Reds as a team hitting 217. They have had 18 home runs. But their team batting average 217, 11th in the National League. A ball called, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike.
You talked about the Mets having 8 300 hitters in the lineup tonight. How about the Cincinnati Reds? They have everybody but Parker's batting 200 or less. Everybody in the lineup 200 or less, but Dave Parker.
Parker hitting at 286. So they don't have a batter hitting 300 in the lineup.
Only 1 batting over 200.
And the count 3 balls and 1 strike. If Sid Fernandez has a problem, it is a control problem. And a lot of people point to concentration being the reason why. And there's ball 4. So with a 3-0 lead, Sid walks Concepcion, and the Reds have their first base runner. That'll bring up Dave Parker. Parker hitting 286, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs. Last year he hit 312, 34 home runs, and 125 RBIs. Second in the MVP voting last season, second to Willie McGee. And the fastball.
Danger pitch to Dave Parker is a curveball, especially with Hernandez holding Concepcion on at first. And generally speaking, of course, you can't say it's always the same. A curveball from a left-handed pitcher to a left-handed batter is the most dangerous pitch.
Back to the fastball, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike.
Left-handed hitter, most of them are low ball hitters, and which means they're pretty good off-speed hitters. And when you throw them that curveball, they have a chance to adjust on it. They may be fooled, but they can adjust, especially a guy as strong as Parker.
Fastball again, and the count at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Parker led the league last year in 2 base hits with 42.
See, with that fastball of Fernandez, it's right on top of Dave. Ball right around the letters. I would suspect that Parker will get another high fastball.
Again, the fastball. Again, Parker late on the swing, but this time he fouls it, so the count stays at 1 ball and 2 strikes.
If a pitcher has it, the best off-speed pitch is a pitch that is a breaking ball, but not an off-speed pitch. It's a slider. But of course, Sid Fernandez doesn't throw a slider, so Carter's sticking with all fastballs.
Again, the 1-2 pitch. And the curveball, and he fights it off. Loops it into right center field. Strawberry can't get to it. And it's a base hit. Dykstra picks it up on the bounce. And Concepcion goes to second and holds there. So the first curve thrown to Parker, he fought it off. He was fooled completely and still got enough to get a base hit.
Yeah, high curveball. Now look at this. See that swing? Watch his swing. Got those arms come in. Whenever the arms come in like that, that means the hitter is fooled. And we've seen Dave Parker, even though he hits a lot of balls hard, we've seen him get a lot of dunkers over the years, and that was one.
Two-time batting champion while with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that brings up Tony Perez. Tony, the veteran first baseman, and he takes outside for ball one. Tony hitting 200 so far this year. No home runs and 1 RBI. He has been at bat 10 times officially. Last year, he hit .328 in 72 ball games with a total of 6 home runs. Fastball is missed. Tony will be 44 years of age on May 14th. A day before his 43rd birthday, he hit a Grand Slam home run. And he became the oldest player to hit a Grand Slam home run in Major League history.
And he's also only 2 home runs behind Orlando Cepeda.
For the most home runs by a player from Puerto Rico. And Hernandez falling behind with a 3-1 count. Perez playing at first base today, close to 44. The oldest player to play first base in Major League history was Huey Jennings, who was 49. The oldest player to hit a home run was Cap Anson, who was 46. And the oldest player to get a base hit was Minnie Minoso, who was 53 in 9 months. Nick Altrock also had a base hit when he was 53, but he was younger than Minnie.
That was when Minnie came back to that 5th decade, wasn't it?
I think he was 1 for 8 in about 2 ball games. And the fastball fouled away.
Perez is such a dangerous hitter. He doesn't get cheated. Naturally, he's slowed down a little bit, that bat speed. He ranks 14th on the all-time RBI list. And all 13 of the 14 that are ahead of him are in the Hall of Fame.
Never led the league in runs batted in, but he has a ton of them. And again, the fastball, the runner's running with the pitch. And Concepcion will have to go back to second and Parker back to first.
I'm sure Gary Carter is probably thinking that Dave Parker, as the trail runner, may be the easier guy to get should Perez go down on strikes. Concepcion with better speed at second base. Sometimes that trail runner doesn't run as hard as the front runner, thinking that the catcher won't throw behind him.
And he also has to wait to make sure the runner in front goes. 3-2. They go again, and the ball again is fouled away. So Pete Rose with his runners in motion, even though he's trailing in this ball game by a 3-0 score.
Shot right there, isn't it?
Pete Rose, who started his career right off the sandlots of Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Reds. Again, the runners go, and a 3-2 pitch is fouled away again. Reds trying to get back in this ball game as they're trailing by 3. Runners at first and second with 1 man out.
Carter was going to go to third base. As you see, he was going to throw behind Tony Perez, but Tony made contact and fouled it off.
And Tony out in front of, right across the front of the plate, across the plate, as a matter of fact, after that foul ball. Runners go, but it's ball 4, so the bases are loaded. 2 walks and a bloop single, and the bases loaded with 1 man out.
And a quality at bat by Tony Perez. Last year, he started 44 ball games, and he was on base either with the hit or walk in 42 of them. That's amazing.
And with the bases loaded and 1 out, the batter will be the left fielder, Nick Esaski.
Fernandez needs to go to the whip right here and strike Osaski out.
And he has a good man to strike out because Nick has a high ratio of strikeouts. He's hitting 196. He has 3 home runs out of his 10 base hits, and he has driven in 5.
Struck out 102 times last year.
And the fastball a ball. Osaski has awesome power. And the fastball fouled away. He is 1 of 3 to hit a ball in the upper deck at Busch Stadium. The other 2, Orlando Cepeda and Mike Shannon.
Orlando Cepeda did it against Juan Marichal.
1-1 the count. And the off-speed pitch, and the count at 2 balls and 1 strike. First changeup thrown by Sid Fernandez. Back to the fastball, and it's ball 3. So Sid running into his old problem of control. Walking 2 so far in this inning, and now a 3-1 count with the bases loaded. Osaski hit 262 last year. And the 3-1 pitch, a fastball that's fouled away.
Ralph, I guess you might say that part of the success of Sid Fernandez is his unpredictability. He throws so many balls that hitters are surprised when the ball's in the strike zone.
He has given up the fewest hits per 9 innings over the last season, better than Dwight Gooden, allowing only 5.71 hits. And he has the best strikeout average off of last year, and he walks him. So a run is forced in, and the Mets lead now 3-1.
Of course, if it were that easy to throw strikes, Sid would do it a lot better. Instead of throwing, one way to get out of it is instead of throwing for the mitt and trying to be too fine, you throw for the 4 corners. What are the 4 corners? They're the 2 shoulder tips and the shin guards, and that gives you a much bigger target for which to throw. When Sid tries to hit that mitt, obviously it's much smaller than the 2 corners, the 2 shoulders of Gary Carter, and the 2 shin guards. So maybe that's what Mel Stottlemyre's telling him. Don't try to be too fine. That's after walking Nick Osaski. Frustrating.
So a run forced in on the walk, 3rd in the inning, and it brings up Buddy Bell. Bell hitting just 157. No home runs and 1 run batted in. Last year he hit 236 in the National League, and there's a strike off the fastball. Buddy Bell, the son of Gus Bell, teammate of mine with the Pittsburgh Pirates. One of the best-looking ball players that ever hit the major league scene. In ability, there's another fastball. Buddy Bell and his father, Gus Bell, have hit a total of 363 home runs in the family. Of course, the all-time high, Hank Aaron and his brother Tommy, 768. Tommy hit 13. And the fastball, 1-2.
Dale and Yogi Berra, right?
Yeah, they're up there, 405 going into this year. Yogi with 358 and Dale with 47. They're high on the active list. 1-2. Got him with a fastball. So Sid gets his first strikeout as he sends Buddy Bell back to the bench.
Remember, the right middle finger on Buddy Bell's right hand is broken, and Gary Carter electing to stay with the fastballs. And he's 2/3 of the way up the hill.
And it brings up Saul Butera. Butera with his first major league home run last season while playing for Montreal. Hit it off of Ray Fontenot at Chicago, and there's ball 1 off the fastball. Butera has had 1 home run this year for his only run batted in. 1 for 5, hitting 200. He has 4 home runs in his major league career. Ball 2 and 2 balls and no strikes. Mets leading 3-1, but the Reds with the bases loaded. 2 men out. And it's a base hit to center field. 1 run scores. The throw to the plate is in plenty of time, and Tony Perez, who is very, very slow, is thrown out for the final out of the inning. So in the inning, 2 runs on 2 hits and 2 men left on base. And the score at the end of 1, the Mets 3 and the Reds 2. Now here's a word from Sunoco. For the second, the Mets leading 3-2. It would have been tied except for this throw by Dykstra.
Not only is Tony Perez 43 years old, but you see him limping. He has a pull left groin. Dykstra does make a strong throw, but Tony Perez with no chance to score. As a matter of fact, when Pete Rose came off the DL and activated himself, then there was talk about Tony Perez being put on the disabled list. So Tony, not only 43 years old, and he's never been really that fast, but he has a pulled groin, and that's the reason he didn't score from second.
So the Mets lead by 1 as they come up here in the second inning, and it will be Sid Fernandez who struggled through that first half inning to lead off. Sid with 3 hits and 7 times at bat, hitting .429. So it will be Sid Fernandez, Len Dykstra, and Wally Backman as the first 3 scheduled batters for the Mets. On the mound, Bill Gullickson. And it's a foul ball. Reds with a record of 5-12, trying to break a 5-game losing streak, and another foul ball for strike 2. Last year, the Reds finished second with a record of 89-72. They were 5.5 games behind the Dodgers. And the curveball hit out to right center field. It's center fielder Eric Davis over to make the play. 1 away as Fernandez is out. And the batter coming up is Len Dykstra.
Say, Mets fans, nothing cools down a hot summer thirst faster than an ice-cold Busch beer. So be sure to have plenty of smooth-tasting Busch beer on hand wherever you're enjoying the game.
Dykstra walked and scored his first time up. And the fastball fouled back out of play. Len changing his batting style. When he first came to the major leagues last year, he choked up in the bat. Was up to bat about 4 or 5 inches. Now down in the end. Almost down in the end. And there's one hit to the second base side. Ron Oster there. 2 men away. So the Mets sent 8 to the plate in the first when they scored 3. But here in the second, the first 2 men are out. And the batter coming up, Wally Backman. Wally singled for a base hit to move Dykstra to third base in his first plate appearance. Wally now with 14 hits and 37 at-bats. Hitting at .378. Last year, Backman hit .273.
Batted .324 from the left side, however. Much better left-handed hitter. Entered the game batting .444 as a left-hander and only .111 as a right-handed hitter.
Strike call. Reds outfield playing him deeper than they did in the past.
Doesn't have power to right field. You see Eric Davis in center and Asaski in left deep. But they're playing a bunching type of outfield, and that's proper.
And this one popped up into center field as Eric Davis puts it away. The Mets go in order. And the score at the end of 1.5 innings, the Mets 3, the Reds 2. Now here's a word from Busch Beer.
Cold Coors Light.
Timbo, yo, where's Nadine tonight?
They probably sitting by the phone waiting for yours truly. Give me a Coors Light, will you, sweet thing?
You guys have a little love spot?
Nah, man's got to have some space. Gotta show these women whose boss has got to zig when they zag. Hey, I know it's brutal, but a man's got to do. But Nadine.
Yo. Oh, she looks miserable.
Yeah.
No slowing down with the silver bullet tonight.
Going now to the bottom half of the second, the Mets leading by a score of 3-2, and there are some Red fans, and that's because of the fact that the Reds are in 6th place. They don't want to be known that they're Reds fans. For the Reds, the leadoff batter will be Ron Oster, and for the broadcast, coming in for the play-by-play, Tim McCarver.
All right, Ralph. Ron Oster, a Cincinnati product, off to a very slow start, batting .200 on the year. Ground ball, base hit inside the bag. Going to be at least 2 for Oster. Ron Oster 1 for 20 as a right-handed hitter. Pops the first pitch down the left field line for his 3rd double of the year.
Well, the first inning was tough for Fernandez, and the second starts out in a bad fashion for the left-hander as Oster comes up with a base hit right down the line. And for Oster, that is his first 2-base hit of this year. Monday, the best double play in town comes to Channel 9. Don't miss Steve and Al Albert, News 9's finest sports team. Premiering Monday night at 8 on News 9 Prime Time. It's double the sports coverage without the double talk.
Gullickson bunting. And it's a strike. Diving back into second base is Ron Oster. Gullickson 1 for 7 on the year. Hernandez in tight at first. Backman over toward first base. Johnson close at second. And the bunt actually hit Gullickson in the batter's box. Got that bat in foul territory.
There's the replay of his bunt. He pulls the bat back and bunts it down right off his front foot.
In order to bunt the ball in fair territory, it would stand to reason that you have your bat in fair territory. For all the little leaguers listening, got to really extend the hands and then soften on contact.
Almost like you catch a baseball with a
Yeah,
glove.
that's right. That's right. It's the old Wally Moses theory of bunting, and he was a good one. Good hitter, too.
Great hitter and a great teacher.
0-2 to Bill Gullickson. And the bunt is a good one to third base and late at third. First and third, nobody out.
All right, here, the 2-strike bunt, bunted fairly hard. Fernandez has an idea about going to third, throws the ball over there. There is no force play. It has to be a tag play. And Oster, who has good speed, beats the play. Sid Fernandez has a good position from which to throw, but his throw is high.
See, the reason the catcher calls that play, too, Ralph, is because he's the only guy who's got the view of the runner at second base. And if Gary Carter called third, it was the wrong play, because even a good throw wouldn't have had him. Breaking ball in the dirt, 1-0.
That'll go as a sacrifice and a fielder's choice, so runners at first and third.
The old theory, whenever you're bunting to tie, you've got to make more sure when you try to get that lead runner. Eric Davis slide to right his first time up. Change-up is tapped foul, 1-1.
By making that play at third base, you allow the go-ahead run to get on at first.
Davis with 3 home runs, tremendous power to all fields. Only weighs 165 pounds. Breaking ball and a beauty, 1-2. nobody out. The Mets lead 3-2, and we're only in the bottom of the second inning. The Reds are threatening. 2-2.
Sid Fernandez doing something that is not very good to do. He holds that ball out and back, and he turns it, goes cross seams with a fastball, and goes with the seams for a curve, and this should be a fastball.
And it was, and it's ball 3-2. Just missed on the corner. So if you're the third base coach, Ralph, you would want the pitches, right? You would
be able to pick that up and relay the pitches to the hitter if they want to take them. A lot of people don't want to take them. Right now he's cross seam. He goes to another position. I didn't see where he got with the seam on that one. He stayed cross seam.
Cross seams got Eric Davis, and that's a second strikeout for Sid Fernandez, and a big one.
Right here he stays with a fastball. And Davis unable to get a piece of it. So a strikeout there with a runner at third. Picking up the first out of the inning. Now you have a tough man to strike out in Dave Concepcion.
Dave walked and scored a run in the first inning. The Mets with 3 runs in the top of the first and 3 walks and 2 hits netted the Reds 2 runs in the bottom of the first. 3-2 New York. Curveball on the corner, 0-1. Concepcion from Aragua, Venezuela. 0-2. Davey, the captain of the Reds. Gold gloves in 1974, 5, 6, 77, and 79. A 5-time Gold Glove winner. Another one fouled away. You can always tell the velocity of a pitcher when a lot of good seasoned hitters are fouling the ball off the other way. And they often do that against Fernandez, even more than Dwight did.
More so than Dwight. He must be very hard to pick up.
The players have a name for it. They call a pitcher like Fernandez funky because of that strange delivery. That high kick conceals the ball. And Concepcion fouls another one back.
Concepcion's heir apparent sitting on the bench, a fellow named Kurt Stillwell, and they figure him to be an outstanding shortstop in the future.
Ground ball to short, could be 2. There's 1. An easy double play gets Fernandez out of the inning. Of all things, a double play ball. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 left. After 2, it's still 3-2 New York. Now, here's a word from Avis Rent-A-Car. This afternoon, but it's turned chilly here at Riverfront in Cincinnati. Supposed to get down to about 35 degrees tonight. And the Mets play day games tomorrow at 2:15, and then again 2:15 on Sunday, and we'll be on the air at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. And our director, Bill Webb, has provided for all the fans a beautiful tribute to Dwight Gooden. And he will be part of our pregame show on Sunday afternoon. I had a chance to see the song that went with some of his remarkable feats, and it's a gripping song, isn't it, Ralph?
It gets to you. Gets those heartstrings.
Indeed it does. Keith Hernandez doubled in 2 runs back in the first. 10 RBIs and 8 doubles for Keith. He's second in the league to Craig Reynolds of the Houston Astros in doubles. Strike 1. 3-2, New York on top. Each team with 3 hits. Fastball, and it's 0-2. One of your truly great 2-strike hitters, Keith Hernandez, huh?
He has 2 approaches to hitting, and he goes to the defensive approach with a 2-strike count.
Gullickson has yet to throw him a breaking ball. See where he goes. Something inside. Oops, a breezer.
Gullickson he'll come in there on you.
As he showed with Dwight Gooden pitching last year to Gary Carter, huh?
That's right. Little ill feeling toward Carter by Gullickson. They were teammates in Montreal, and he came at Carter, and then later on, retaliation by Mr. Gooden.
Slider is fouled away. Now you got to pitch inside. If you're a pitcher, you cannot allow hitters to go out and take that outside corner away from you.
Gullickson discovered that he was a diabetic when he had a routine checkup in spring training back in 1980.
Ground ball right side. Oster, an easy play. Over to Perez. One away. That's 5 in a row retired by Gullickson after that shaky first inning. And the batter is Gary Carter. And there was indeed bad blood between Gary Carter and Bill Gullickson in Montreal. If you remember, when Gary Carter was traded from Montreal, a lot of disparaging, to say the least, comments coming from several of the Montreal teammates, and Gullickson made it quite clear there were not feelings of amour toward Gary Carter. 1-0. Carter. We talked to the Montreal folks up there. There was certainly feelings of envy involved.
I don't know what else it could be, because Gary Carter is the man that you'd like to have around. He has a great personality. He's always ready to play. Always a smile on his face. And a great contributor to a ball club. Maybe he's just too nice.
It's always been the rap on Steve Garvey that he's just too nice. People can't cope with that, maybe. Good slider there, 2-2. I think a lot of us in baseball, Ralph, I know I occasionally fall into that and try to fight it. We have a tendency to stereotype everybody and think that they should all be nice and congenial without realizing that these guys, their jobs certainly affect their personalities. Did mine when I played. 3-2.
Well, when you go out there every day and someone's trying to take that job away, and it's your performance that determines whether or not you stay, and also you're in jeopardy of injuries and what have you, you can get pretty uptight about it.
Headgum right you can. Slider is low, so Carter on there. That is the third walk given up by Bill Gullickson, one intentionally to Darryl Strawberry. I mean, you know, you go 0 for 23 or 0 for 24 and you're playing a day game after a night game and you show up at the park. What are you supposed to be like? You know, ebulliently happy? Somebody asks you a question, how you doing? I don't want to talk about it.
That reminds me of the old story about the ball player who was in a tremendous hitting streak.
Strawberry, the batter. Swing and a miss, 0-1.
And he'd come home after the ball game. His wife would say to him, "How did it go today, honey?" And he'd say, "Oh, it went great. Everything was fine. Got 3 for 4. Next day, I got 2 for 4. Played a doubleheader, and he went 0 for 8. He came home, and she asked him how it go today, and he said, "You take care of the cooking."
He didn't want to talk about it, right? Ground ball. Good play, Oster. He knocked it down, but it gets fine. I said a good play, but by deflecting that ball, it allowed Gary Carter to go to third base. First and third, 1 out.
Looked like he had it in the beginning. Made the diving try, and it looked like he got his glove on it to stop it, but it caromed off his glove and went out the back door. In the front door and out the back door, and Strawberry gets a base hit and a runner third.
Strawberry at first. He is credited with a base hit. 4 hits now for the Mets. George Foster is the batter. George struck out his first time up. The Mets lead 3-2. Top of the third, 1 out. There goes Strawberry, and Foster fouls it back just above us, and I was bailing, ready to leave, Mr. Kiner.
That's the fastest move you've made this week.
I'll guarantee you, I act like I'm 19 years old when I got baseballs coming at me. I'm used to seeing balls like that with my equipment on. You don't understand.
Your first move is to take the mask off your face, right?
That's correct. Then find the ball. Not anymore. I make my move and I find the ball from standing on my haunches or my back or whatever I fall on. 0-1 to George Foster. There goes Strawberry. Line drive, base hit, right field. Strawberry easily to third. Carter scores. It's 4-2 New York.
Well, with Strawberry in motion and the second baseman moving to cover, no chance at all for a play by Oster on this handle base hit by George Foster. It drops into right field. Strawberry easy to third, and Carter scores, and the Mets pick up another.
So George Foster told Sal Butera, I'll handle that one, and that's what he did. A handle shot to right field. Ray Knight with an RBI single in the first. 14 RBIs for a rejuvenated Ray Knight. Fly ball right side. Oster giving chase to no avail. So it's 0-1 to Ray Knight.
Big feature article in the newspaper here in Cincinnati on Ray Knight. He was a popular player when he played here for the Cincinnati Reds.
Strawberry at third base, George Foster at first. Outfield deep and straight away for Ray Knight.
The year that Knight replaced Pete Rose, he hit .318 with 10 home runs and 79 RBIs.
Another handle shot in the right center. Oster makes the catch, and Strawberry's going to be doubled off. Strawberry scores, and Foster, and the run may count. As a matter of fact, the run scored before the double play was completed, and had Oster gone right to first base, then it would have been a double play, and Strawberry's run wouldn't have counted. As it stands, it's a sacrifice fly, but a double play. We'll check on how that scoring is after this. After 2.5, it's 5-2 New York. Ending to the top of the third inning, and this is what happened.
Right here, Ray Knight gets jams with a fastball. It's out of the shallow right center. Strawberry is tagging up at third. The throw back in as Strawberry scores, but now Foster not able to get back at first. He thought the ball might drop in, so they got the force play at first. And this is the way it looks on the replay. Ball cut off by the catcher Butera as the throw comes in from Oster, and now they double up. Strawberry Foster at first base. Now we're checking on the scoring and see whether or not there's an RBI credited to Strawberry.
Or tonight.
I should say tonight, as Pete Rose looks on.
Or normally there would be no RBI on a double play, but I think in this particular instance it will be an RBI because the run scored before the double play counted, thereby nullifying the double play. A very unusual play, but it is 5-2 Mets. The run, when the run scores from third base with none or one out, that precedes any double play. For instance, on an appeal play, would be the same thing. If, for instance, runners at first and third on a fly ball to the outfield, the runner at first tagged, the runner at third tagged, and the runner at first left too soon, if the runner from third scored and the appeal was made to first base, then the run counts even though the double play is completed.
As
Is
the
that
out was
correct?
made after the run crossed the plate.
Right. That's the way we understand it, and we hope we got it right. 5-2 Mets. And Parker goes down on strikes. That is the third strikeout for Sid Fernandez.
Sid going to the fastball. Parker had blooped a base hit off a curveball his first time up. This time he doesn't bother with the curve, just stays with the fastball, and he picks up the strikeout.
Tony Perez, the batter, he walked his first time up. Curveball is low. Strawberry made the proper play by tagging up, because even though the ball wasn't hit deep, Oster had his back to the infield.
Very good base running at third.
And not good base running on George Foster's part, because with one out and Oster's back to the infield, then you got to understand that Strawberry with good speed would try to score, so you have to make sure the ball drops. Foster didn't, and that's why he was doubled up. 2-1.
And because it was not a forced play, the run scores.
To Tony Perez. So Ray Knight was credited with his 14th RBI of the year, make that number 15 for Ray. But it was a 4-2-3 double play, so no sac fly. So a time at bat credited for Ray Knight. But the big thing, I guess, as far as the Mets are concerned, it was a run netted when Strawberry scored.
It is a sacrifice fly.
It is a sacrifice fly, okay. And Perez walks. So that nullifies the double play. And I guess that's right, too, Ralph. We'll talk about it a little more in a little while. This promo.
Liza Minnelli and Joel Grey had an all-star cast in the Academy Award-winning musical Cabaret. Don't miss a minute of this classic film, presented with limited commercial interruptions, Monday night at 9 on the $1 Million Movie.
And the batter, Nick Asaski, who walked with the bases loaded in the first, and he swings and misses. I guess you can't penalize the hitter for bad base running by Foster, and that's why Knight's a double play was a sacrifice fly.
And
Very
an RBI.
And an RBI. 0-2. Seems fair.
If Foster had not been on base, it would have gone as a fly ball to the second baseman and a sacrifice. And because of the base running and the double play, it shouldn't change.
And the curveball is outside. 1-2 to Nick Asaski.
Just to go one more step in the explanation of that, the official scorer had to look it up. Very unusual play. You don't see that play, and occasionally you have to go to the book to find out what really should be done in the scoring.
That's easy for the official scorer to say. He ought to have to explain it when it happens.
Just keep treading water. It also is ruled a double play, obviously.
Yeah, right. 4-2 to 3 double play. Fastball low, 2-2. Could be playable. Hernandez over near the dugout, and he drops the ball. It appeared that Keith thought that ball was going to be out of play.
Well, here it is again. The wind is blowing very strongly, but you don't figure it to have that much to do with the ball in this enclosed stadium, but evidently it does, because Keith overran that ball, got in too far under, and it scored an error against Keith. Error prolonging the time at bat.
That is the second error of the year for Keith Hernandez. So Asaski stays alive. Had a good cut at that one. Mets lead in a weird ball game. Both pitchers have been wild, each committing 3 walks. Ball hit well to right center, but there's Strawberry. And he makes the catch. 2 away. Perez returns to first, and the batter, Buddy Bell, who struck out his first time up.
Fans are unhappy with Buddy Bell. They figured that he would continue to hit like he did in the American League when he came to the National League. He had a .284 average in the American League. Last year, here in the National League, he hit .236, and this year is off to a horrendous start.
Swings and misses.
Start of this ball game hitting .157.
Buddy got his 2000th hit last April, 1985. 14 seasons in the American League. Cincinnati, pardon me, Ralph, at one time last year, Cincinnati had 5 players with over 2,000 hits. No team has ever amassed that many players at one time.
Led by Pete Rose with over 4,000.
Twice as many as his nearest guy. Hop fly in the infield. Wally Backman there. And he makes the catch. No runs, no hits, no errors, and 1 left. After 3, it's 5-2 New York. And we'll be back after this word from manufacturer. Time. Runners at first and third, 1 out. Ray Knight lifts one to shallow right center. Oster makes a good play. Now Foster's running on the play. Had Oster come up and gone right to first, then the run doesn't count. However, he went home and the double play was completed after Strawberry had scored. And that's the reason that the Mets were credited with their 5th run of the game. Good play by Oster. Now he comes up throwing, but he's throwing home. Nobody told him to throw to first. Okay, now Foster was at second. Now he's returning to first, and because the double play was completed after Strawberry had scored, then the Mets netted a run. And Stevie, I bet you're glad you weren't involved in all that. Man alive, a guy who had to have the line of the early season tonight.
Oh, thank you very much.
Outstanding.
Well, Howard Johnson leads it off here in the 4th inning, now that all that is over. I just enjoyed watching it all and listening to you two.
That was fun.
I thought you explained it very well. Breaking ball, missed, and it's strike 1 to Hojo. Howard struck out his first time up.
And that line's worth another shot, pal.
Well, I'll tell you what. What precipitated the conversation was a visit that I had with Pete Rose prior to the game late this afternoon. That's high, and the count 1-1. I was talking to Pete about the bad start that his club has gotten off to, and of course when he came off the DL, Pete got off to a bad start. 0 for 10, 0 for April. Skied to short left. Asaski coming on, and there's 1 away. And I said, Pete, is it not true you're the only member of the 4,000 hit club to go 0 for April? There are only 2, he and Ty Cobb. And he said, just another record.
He would say that. Now there's Foster. Now watch this. See, there's Foster right there returning to second, or actually returning to first by way of second, and the ball comes all the way home. The throw's late. Strawberry scores. Butera throws to first, and the double play is completed after Strawberry scores.
Consequently, it's a sacrifice fly and an RBI for Knight, and it's 5-2 New York. Sid Fernandez flied to center his first time up. And he takes a strike, and the count now 1-1.
The only other guy, of course, that has a chance with 4,000 hits in 0 for April was Ty Cobb.
That's right.
And since nobody's around, that's all Ty played. You can safely say never went 0 for April.
That's right.
After he got 4,000 hits.
That's for sure. That's probably a mortal lock right there. Pete probably knew it. There's Pete. He probably knew Ty Cobb never went 0 for April.
Oh, yeah.
He knows more about Ty Cobb than anybody. Fouled away, 1-2. Sid entered the game hitting .429, but he has done even better than that on the mound of late, even though he got off to a shaky start tonight. And he goes after a bad one, and he is punched out of there. Third strikeout for Bill Gullickson. So 2 out and nobody on, and the leadoff batter Len Dykstra, who is 0 for 1 plus a walk. Len walked to lead off the ball game, scored the first run of the game when the Mets scored 3 in the first. And he has now been on base in 15 of the 17 games in which he has played, via either a hit or a walk. He has really done the job leading off. And he slaps one to left. Saski hardly has to move, and the inning is over. An easy 1-2-3 inning for Gullickson. But it's still 5-2 New York here in the middle of the 4th inning, and we'll return to Riverfront Cincinnati after this for Oldsmobile. New York leading Cincinnati 5-2 as we go to the bottom half of the 4th inning. Steve Zabriskie along with Tim McCarver and Ralph Kiner. Sid Fernandez, after a shaky start, has settled down a bit. He has walked 4, struck out 3, and given up 2 runs on 3 hits. Sal Butera, Ron Oster, and Bill Gullickson, the bottom third of the order to face Sid here in the 4th. Butera single to center to drive in a run in the 1st. And he grounds it foul off the front of the New York dugout. Strike 1. Scatter, folks.
Sal Butera, kind of a study in diligence, played 8 years in the minors as an infielder. Got his shot with the Twins, the Minnesota Twins, as a catcher. Tommy Helms, he could turn a double play.
Boy, could he play second or what?
Or what?
Or third or short.
Was it cold tonight or what? Was it sunny today or what?
Yes.
Who started that or what?
I don't know. Oh, beautiful breaking ball gets him looking for out number 1 here in the 4th. Sid has now struck out 4.
Well, the action continues when the Mets challenge the Cincinnati Reds Sunday afternoon at 2. Join us for play-by-play coverage right here on Channel 9, the home of the Mets, and a big surprise that's been arranged by Bill Webb. As Ralph and I were saying, we saw it, a tribute to Dwight Gooden. A little 5-minute piece, and it is a beauty. It'll send chills up the old spine. Or what?
or any part of it, actually. Ron Oster takes a strike, 0-1. Oster doubled in the 2nd inning, and that is only his 2nd hit batting right-handed this year. He's 2 for 21 as a right-handed hitter. He's the only switch hitter in the lineup tonight for Cincinnati, as Pete Rose loaded up on those right-handed hitters against Sid. Fastball is high. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Reds have managed to win only 1 game here at home this season so far, and that's one reason the natives are a little restless. And he chased the breaking ball down and away. Strikeout number 5 for El Cid.
Well, the one thing that you haven't heard over the years here are boos from the fans. Cincinnati, representative of certainly one of the 2 best teams in the National League in the 70s, but you just heard a lot of boos when Oster struck out. The other team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the winningest team in the 70s, and all anybody talks about is the Big Red Machine. That's because they won back-to-back World Series in 75 and 76, but the Buccos won 2.
71 and 79. Up the middle, Backman behind the bag. No, Gullickson beat it out. The ball took a long time to get out there, and then Backman had a long throw to make.
You know, that's an interesting point that you make, because it looks like this play's in slow motion. It's like in a different, another time period or something. Gullickson getting down there slowly. Wally, of course, had a a position and a half from which to throw in deep center or in shallow center field. It's kind of a strange play, like you're looking at a weird one there.
And not really very common for AstroTurf or artificial turf.
That's right. Yeah.
Here's Eric Davis with Gullickson at first and 2 out. Davis 0 for 2. And he takes low ball 1. Davis flied to the warning track to Strawberry in right field and struck out swinging on a fastball in the second inning. And the fastball right in there, 1-1.
I'll tell you, this young man right here has that life strength like Darryl Strawberry, and that to me is the best type of strength to hit a baseball with, because you can extend those hands. He really extends when he whips that bat around.
Boy, did he take a cut there. 1-2.
Talking to Billy DeMars, the batting instructor of the Reds before the game, and he said it's one problem with Eric Davis, and that's making contact. And when you drop your hands that far down, you're not going to make a lot of contact unless it's with the bottom half of the ball.
And Sid blows him away. Strikes out the side here in the 4th inning, although he gave up the infield base hit to Gullickson. So at the end of 4, it's still New York 5 and Cincinnati 2. We're back after this for Michelob Light.
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it! I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy? He missed the tag! He missed the tag!
Big scoreboard, the Houston Astros over the Montreal Expos 6-3. Winning pitcher Bob Nepper 5-0. Floyd Yeomans, the ex-Met, 0-3. And 5-1 Atlanta over Philadelphia after 2. That's Steve Carlton against David Palmer. Pittsburgh at San Diego later. Chicago at San Francisco. And St. Louis at L.A. In the junior circuit, the Yankees over the Rangers 2-0 after 1.5. And the Kansas, I'll be all right. The Oakland A's. I followed them right through 50 years of baseball.
They have been in all those cities.
The Oakland A's 2-1 over the Red Sox after 4. It's 6-1 the Twins over the Tigers after 4. 1-1 Mariners at Toronto after 2.5, and 1-0 the White Sox over the Cleveland Indians after 1. The Orioles playing Kansas City, and the Angels at Milwaukee to play the Brewers later on. Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Oakland. I'll be all right.
Wally Backman leads off and hits the first one on the ground to Oster, who throws him out, 1 away.
See if I'll do all right with this one. The Mets and Snapper want to let you know that if you miss Snapper calendar weekend on April 19th and 20th, you can stop into any participating Snapper dealer to obtain one.
Keith Hernandez, with a 2-run double in the first, is 1-2 and has extended his hitting streak now to 7 games. He entered the game hitting .360 over the last 6 games. Keith has also scored 7 runs and driven in 5 during his 7-game streak. And he rips one to right field. Parker coming on, and he makes the catch. Nice play by Dave Parker, 2 away.
I know some of you folks have seen outfielders slide like this. Well, why do they slide? The reason they slide is to protect that back. Because when you bend your knees, you drop your hands. And that's why outfielders find it easier to slide to make a catch like that rather than bending from the waist. Good play by Parker.
Also, if you bend from the waist, you run the risk of somersaulting forward.
Yeah.
With all that momentum you've got going.
That's right. The ball gets by you. When you bend from the waist, you got to bend those knees. And while you're down there, you might as well slide. That's what outfielders think.
Might as well catch the ball while you're at it, too.
Yeah.
Gary Carter, 0 for 1 plus a walk, scored a run in the third. 2 out and nobody on, and strike 1 to Carter. Just outside, 1-1.
That's why it's not only important to catch the ball, but to catch it with the proper technique. Had Darryl Strawberry had the proper technique last May against Juan Samuel, he may not have been out for 7 weeks.
True. Breaking ball missed. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Gullickson with an 8-6 career record against the Mets. And he and Carter, of course, as you and Ralph were talking about, not on the friendliest of terms. High fastball popped up to left field. Saski over. Davis also there, and it's Eric Davis who makes the catch to end the inning. Gullickson has now retired 7 in a row. But the Mets still lead at 5-2 here in the middle of the 5th. And we're back after this for Burger King. Here at Riverfront in Cincinnati on a cool evening, the Mets have continued their hot hitting as they lead 5-2. And coming in to call the next inning and a half for you, a guy who at times was a hot hitter himself, Tim McCarver.
Oh, on occasion. I was just thinking of something. We talked about how in the top half of this inning that Dave Parker slid to make that catch, and that sliding to make a catch like that is the easiest thing to do. That might catch on, you know, even for people out of uniform. See a dime on the street, I'll slide down and get it, drop a piece of paper. Why not slide on?
Well, as you've said before, you see guys in $300 and $400 suits at the ballpark, ruining them for a $5 baseball.
Maybe they'll be sliding.
Yeah, why not right in the middle of the street or something?
See it now. Hart, Schaffner, and Marks putting sliding pads underneath those pants.
Knee pads at least.
Yeah. Anyway, Dave Concepcion 0 for 1 on the night. He walked and scored a run in the first.
I thought I was the one that got hit on the head yesterday.
Yeah, you had an accident at home, didn't you?
No, we don't need to talk about it, but it's just...
Well,
you're thinking of something that
we talk
would come
about
to my scrambled mind right now.
2-0 to Concepcion, and 5-2 Mets lead. You knocked yourself out.
I got my brain scrambled yesterday. Yes. That's why I left home and came here to Cincinnati.
It's dangerous with you around the house.
That's right.
There's a strike, 2-1.
Lynn probably would have made me leave whether I had to do a game tonight or not.
Well, the thing about it is those household accidents, that's why I've always contended that I shouldn't be working around the yard or any place as far as that's concerned.
Hire that work out and save yourself.
3-1 to Dave Concepcion. I'm terrible around the house.
Are you?
Awful. Can't screw in a light bulb. Can't do anything. I'm awful. 3-2.
I can get the job done, but I quite often injure myself doing it.
Three and 2 to Dave Concepcion. Mets with 3 in the first and 2 in the third, and the Reds with 2 in their half of the first inning. And the fastball's outside, so Concepcion leads off by walking here in the 5th inning.
Catch up on the hottest hits with host Dionne Warwick on Solid Gold. Tune in as she welcomes Culture Club, Miami Sound Machine, and Teddy Pendergrass. Plus a special interview with Smokey Robinson, all on Solid Gold Saturday morning at 10, right here on Channel 9.
Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, huh? Dave Parker, the batter. Dave is single and struck out. He scored a run back in the first inning. Curveball inside.
Well, Sid obviously not as sharp as he has been his previous 2 starts. Over the 16 innings that he worked in his last 2 ball games, he gave up only 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and he struck out 16 in those 16 innings of work. And he did not have his normal or off and on control problems, which he's showing tonight.
Concepcion back easily at first base. Davey with 1 stolen base, but less likely to run with the Reds trailing by 3 here in the bottom of the 5th inning.
There you see what Ralph Kiner pointed out earlier about Sid holding that ball visibly behind his back.
And that was a fastball, because he does not throw the curveball with a cross-seam hole. Ralph picking up on that and very observant. 2-0 to Dave Parker.
Well, Ralph didn't hit those 360-plus home runs, not paying attention to what pitchers do.
A little tricky then. He kind of Throws the fastball. It's outside. 3-0 to Dave Parker. One of the big reasons that Sid Fernandez does not have but 3 complete games in the major leagues, he throws so many pitches.
He doesn't seem to tire as quickly as he has in the past, probably because he's more mature.
There's a strike, 3-1.
But also, he's lasted a little longer more recently because he has gotten himself under control. Tonight, of course, another story. He's walked 5 already through 4+ innings.
Swing and a miss, 3-2.
Well, he really gets in Parker's kitchen right here. Ties him up. Of course, Dave got tied up with a breaking ball earlier and fought it off for a base hit. But that fastball is a different story.
We'll see if Concepcion will be off with the count 3-2. Nobody out. There he goes. And Parker fouls it back. Concepcion taking that walking lead at first base. You want to make sure that runner stops over there. This guy can run the bases. An outstanding base runner. Davy Concepcion. Now he stopped. Now the throw over there. All you want to do is make him stop. It's a lot tougher to get going from a stop position rather than from a walking lead. 3-2 to Parker. Another throw to first.
Sid might be getting a little overly concerned about Concepcion now.
A point with which I am impressed.
Thank you. I mean, the Mets do have a 3-run lead here, and he's got a 3-2 count on Parker. Parker should be by far his #1 priority.
There goes the runner. Ground ball to Hernandez, and he'll have to go to first base, and that's the reason for sending the runner. Stay out of 2. So with 1 out, the batter will be Tony Perez. He's walked twice tonight.
And Parker's troubles continue. Parker now has only 5 hits in his last 28 at-bats, counting his base hit tonight, and they have all been singles.
I guess the proper pronunciation of P-E-R-E-Z is Perez, but it's been Americanized.
He's been around too long.
That's right.
If he was just coming up, that might be the case.
Sid and Gary have had problems in the past getting their signs straight with a runner at second base. His last start, he crossed Carter up twice with a runner on second base, a nationally televised game last Saturday against the Cardinals. So we'll see if they're straight tonight. Bottom of the 5th, 5-2, New York on top. Ball 1. Tony Perez.
I guess we can pronounce it either way.
Yeah. Outfield shaded around toward right field, just a hair. Ball 2, 2-1.
Tony Perez has always been a very disciplined hitter with a good eye, which is really unusual for a guy who's considered a power hitter, as you see the defensive alignment shading him toward right.
Line drive. What a play by Backman. Got him easily at first base. 2 out. Oh, my. As Dick Enberg would say.
Or, oh, baby, as Tim McCarver would often say. Well, Wally gets his uniform dirty a lot. Tough to do on artificial turf. But I'll tell you, there's never been a guy around that plays with any more intensity than Backman does. He thinks he can get everything over there, and even though he came to the major leagues with limited defensive ability, he has become a very good second baseman.
Give an assist to Davy Johnson also.
That's
when Wally was sent down several years ago. Change up to Osaski's on the corner. Concepcion at third, 2 out. The Mets lead by 3, trying to win their 12th game in their last 13 decisions. Osaski fouls it back.
And it should be pointed out, if necessary, that Backman also saved a run right there, because had that ball gone through, Concepcion would have scored.
Saved a run and got the out. 1-2 to Osaski. Nick on the night has flied to right field and walked. 5 walks issued by Fernandez and 6 strikeouts. Lined up the middle. Fernandez will go to first base. An interesting thing happened. Concepcion didn't break, thinking that Fernandez may have only one play, and that's to home. Nonetheless, a good play by Sid Fernandez. No runs, no hits, no errors, and 1 left. After 5, it's 5-2 New York. Now here's a word from Mets have a 5-2 lead, and Darryl Strawberry leads it off. Darryl 1 for 1. He was intentionally walked in the first and singled to right in the third. He eventually scored on that weird double play with runners at first and third in the third inning. And 1 out, Ray Knight lifted a soft fly to right center. A good play by Oster when he caught it, but he turned to throw home with Foster running on the play. Strawberry was safe at home, and Foster was doubled at first, but the run counted. Ground ball toward first. 3-1. And 1 out here in the 6th inning. The batter, George Foster. You don't see that happen but a handful of times a year, Steve, where the runner tagging up at third base takes precedence over whatever happens afterwards, even on an appeal play.
Yeah, and I think the point you made was well taken in the fact that all Oster had to do was throw to first to get the double play and prevent the run from scoring, because he really didn't have a shot to get Strawberry. But you can understand where he would come up thinking runner at third, his #1 priority, which he thought of before he even caught the ball, was to keep Strawberry from scoring.
Yeah, because he doesn't realize that Foster's running on the play.
Yeah, he was surprised. In fact, Butera was surprised.
Yeah. And a check swing. He went too far. 1-1 to George Foster. George is 1 for 2 on the night. Entered the game batting .314.
And George, over the last 8 games, not counting tonight, hitting at a .344 pace.
Ground ball to third. A short throw, safe at first base. And luckily, Foster was safe because he was not running hard on the play. It's going to be an error on Buddy Bell. That's why you never take it for granted.
Had Perez been able to even handle this ball cleanly on the second attempt, they would have gotten Foster because George was not running hard. But he bobbled it and did not pick it up in time. Boy, that was close.
Almost had him.
He really had to fight it. But George stretched out at the last second when he saw the ball was dropped and was safe.
Ray Knight, the batter. Ray 1 for 2 with an RBI. Ball 1. Actually 2 RBIs, and he's 1 for 1 because he was credited with the sac fly, even though it was a double play. Now we got it right. 15 RBIs for Ray on the year. Oster at first with 1 out. There goes the runner. Ground ball up the middle. Nice play, Oster, and a quick throw to first base. Foster's safe at second. One of those times when, had the hit and run not been on, it would have been a base hit.
I was just going to say that had Foster not been running, Oster probably would not have gotten to the ball. Concepcion had an outside shot at getting it well behind the bag, but would have had a much tougher play to throw out the runner. And Joe Price is up in the Cincinnati bullpen.
Howard Johnson probably will be walked intentionally. We'll see what Pete Rose is going to do. Yep, going to put him on. Sid Fernandez, however, entered the game 3 for 7, even though he's 0 for 2 tonight, so he swings the bat fairly well. Gullickson trying to win his first game as a Cincinnati Red. There's Marge Schott. Marge, the owner of the Cincinnati Reds. And one must wonder now where Schatzy is. I guess you would wonder that.
Probably having dinner in the press room. VIP lounge or something. It really amazed me when I opened up the Reds media guide and found Schatzy's picture listed ahead of people like Bill Burgish, the GM, Pete Rose, the manager.
It says in the media guide that Schatzy is believed to be the only dog in Major League Baseball to have her own office. Certainly pertinent to the Reds' drive for the pennant this year. Runners at first and second and 2 out. And Hernandez swings and misses 0-1.
Well, Schatzy's bio is at the bottom of the page, which houses Marge's bio. I'm sure Marge was willing to give up that quarter page or so for Schatzy.
0-1 to Fernandez. Mets on top 5-2. 1-1. Charlie Finley had a mule for a mascot.
Yeah, but he didn't have an air-conditioned office for it.
Nor was it in the press guide.
This is true.
And Sid went too far, 1-2 to Fernandez. He also had some goats in the old Kansas City ballpark, Kansas City A's. And one of the reasons for those goats was to keep the ground crew from the expense of mowing the hill in right field. The goats to do the grazing. Well, Fernandez goes down on strikes. And for Gullickson, that's a 4th strikeout. No runs, no hits, 1 error, and 2 left. So after 5.5, it's 5-2 New York. We go to the middle of the 6th after this word. From 15 to 20,000 on hand tonight at Riverfront. A scene of many a packed crowd here in Cincinnati, the Queen City. And I understand the Delta Queen is in town. She's 60 years old.
We saw her on the way to the park this afternoon, parked within a monumental home run of the ballpark, right on the Ohio River here.
A monumental home run, believe me.
Yes.
Buddy Bell has no home runs this year, but he's had his share. Fastball is high from Sid Fernandez. One 1-0 to Buddy Bell. Well, fans, there's a lot more Mets action to come, so open up a cold Budweiser and get ready with that clean, crisp taste that only comes from Beechwood Aging. Hey, pal, this Bud's for you. There's a strike, 2-1. The Reds have only 4 hits on the game. The Mets lead it 5-2. Buddy Bell. Had a good cut, but as often happens, he fouls it back. That little pop at the end, huh?
It does seem like people like Fernandez and Gooden, who have that powerful fastball, are able to make that thing sort of somehow speed up as it gets close to the plate.
Well, the 6th walk issued by Sid Fernandez. His walk 1 in every inning, but the 4th and the 2nd. And the batter will be Sal Butera, who's 1 for 2.
Join the award-winning Channel 9's news team for the latest breaking news, weather, and sports. Catch the special late edition of News 9 Primetime immediately following tonight's game right here on Channel 9.
Joe Price, the left-hander, continues to throw for the Reds. And now Roger McDowell up and throwing for the Mets. Change-up. 0-1 to Butera. There's Mac. Another changeup ripped up the middle. And Buddy Bell's going to stop at second, but the Reds have runners at first and second. Nobody out, and the batter Ron Oster.
Sal Butera, coming into this game, was 0 for 14 for his career against the New York Mets. He is now 2 for 3 with an RBI single and one right through the wickets here. 2 singles to center and 3 trips in this game tonight.
Sal can't keep from talking about that single. I'll tell you, that's what I've seen guys kiss first base. They hadn't been there in so long. And I was one of them several times. Well, you get in those things, you get down to first base, and you want to talk to somebody and tell them how happy you are.
He did hit that ball well,
yes,
too.
He did.
Stottlemyre out again to talk to Fernandez and Carter. And Tim, you obviously know a lot more about pitchers than I do, but I think that's been a problem of Sid's, that when he has been wild, he has been consistently wild, high and away to right-handed hitters.
Well, interesting thing. I've talked to Don Drysdale, who's a buddy of mine, and about the turn that a lot of pitchers have, and Don explains it very well. And with Fernandez, you can really see it. He doesn't take a complete turn back. He stops. He stops his turn, and it's like a hitter who takes a half a trigger. If you watch Fernandez's right shoulder, he doesn't turn it toward second base like a Roger McDowell or a Jesse Orozco does. He kind of stops it, and that prevents him from coming through the ball. It's a technical point, but a very important point. That one down and in, but he's rarely wild down and in, and you're right.
You add to that the fact that he sort of slings the ball. His foot hits the ground before his arm really comes around, which makes him harder for the hitters to pick up. But by the same token, it would seem to me would make it harder for him additionally to come through enough to bring that ball across the plate.
2-0 to Ron Oster. There's the strike. You know, his unpredictability is part of his success.
Here's the motion. You see, he did not turn back, as Tim was saying.
Don, as a matter of fact, is the first guy that brought that to my attention. He doesn't make the complete turn. Ground ball to short, could be 2. 1, not in time. To first base, the fielder's choice. But the Mets did get 1 with Buddy Bell moving to third, and there'll be a pinch hitter for Bill Gullickson.
Well, the ball just not hit sharply enough to pick up the double play, and Ron Oster runs well. He's by the bag before the relay can be made. Even though Backman does a good job of getting out of the way and turning it, it was just too slowly hit to short.
And the pinch hitter will be young Tracy Jones from Hawthorne, California, one of many fine young outfielders that these Reds have. Mets talking over strategy, and they're going to play for 2 right here. With runners at first and third, 1 out, a 2-run lead, 3-run lead, pardon me.
Well, Jones is hitting .280 on the year with no homers and 1 RBI. As a pinch hitter, he is 0 for 3 with that 1 RBI. And here comes Davy Johnson out of the Mets dugout.
Well, an interesting move. And Roger McDowell is going to be the new pitcher. And we'll continue with the pitching change here after this word from New York Telephone.
McDowell making his 10th appearance of the young season with a record of 2-0 and 1 save, a 2.63 ERA. He's worked 13 2/3 innings, allowing 10 hits, 4 earned runs. He's walked 5. And in those 13 2/3, he has struck out 14 batters. And Pete Rose has changed pinch hitters, as Buddy Bell is the runner at third, and Osaski the runner at first, or rather Oster the runner at first. Cal Daniels will be the pinch hitter, who has hit safely in 9 of his last 10 games, and overall on the year is hitting .353 with 2 homers and 5 RBIs. He's also 2 for 2 as a pinch hitter.
Calvosky Daniels from Warner Robins, Georgia. Actually born in Vienna, Georgia, lives in Warner Robins now, and a sinker is low to Cal Daniels. Cal batted .302 at Denver last year, 15 home runs, 43 RBIs, and only 265 at-bats. He is a fine-looking talent. Good sinker, 1-1 to Daniels. He runs well, too, even though he broke his right ankle last year. He did have 10 stolen bases.
He was originally drafted by the Mets. He did not sign, however.
Fastball is low, 2-1.
And the Mets' fine pitching prospect, Randy Myers, was originally drafted by the Reds the same year. And in the supplemental draft, they each wound up signing with the opposite club.
Huh. I didn't know that. Nice going. Daniels, the #1 draft choice in '82 of the Reds. Yeah, a lot of people think just because you're drafted by a team that you have to sign with it. You go right back in the hat the next year.
That's right.
2-1 to Daniels.
That's why they have really 2 drafts, one for never been drafted players and one for previously drafted players.
2-2 to Cal. Nasty pitch.
Watch the movement on this ball. McDowell's pitches are usually farther down in the strike zone, but boy, that can get you bailing out of there in a hurry.
Try to set the scene here. The Reds have runners at first and third, 1 out, and the Mets lead by 3. We're in the bottom of the 6th. 3-2 to Daniels. So the way Pete Rose has been playing it, Ron Oster should be off. We'll see.
He had the runners in motion, as you look at Eric Davis on deck, earlier in the ball game with a 3-2 count and 1 away. And the Reds were trailing by the same margin back then.
Runner not running. Roger faking to third base. You can fake to second or third with your foot still on the rubber. But if you go to first, the foot must be removed from the rubber. And that's what McDowell did. Buddy Bell at third, Ron Oster at first. Daniels with good power. Oster not running, and Daniels goes down on strikes. So Roger McDowell does the job, or at least part of the job, and Eric Davis the batter.
Well, McDowell's sinker, when it's working, is really tough to catch up with, and you can see that Daniels is well over the ball. And that's where Raj makes his living. Boy, that's his bread and butter right there.
That's an interesting point, because the hitters are used to facing Fernandez the first 2 times, and they see the bottom half of the ball, and now Davy Johnson counters with McDowell, who throws the sinker. two completely different types of pitchers. 1-0 to Davis.
And both guys will give their catcher a tremendous workout.
Got that right.
No easy job when either Fernandez or McDowell are out there throwing.
Eric Davis has struck out twice and fly deep to right. He's 0 for 3, entered the game batting only .185, but he has 3 home runs. He can hit it a long way. 2-0.
Dave Parker told me that he thinks Eric Davis has more ability than any player that he's seen come into the league since he's been in the National League.
Holy cow.
And he was serious.
What a tout. He must have been. Swing and a miss.
Eric's problem, like all young players who have ability, is that they must fight the pressure of having to live up to their potential. Something Darryl Strawberry of the Mets knows a little bit about.
2-1 to Eric Davis. And he fouls it back. 2-2. Of course, Darryl has 81 home runs over 3 years, not counting this year. And Davis, with 8 home runs, batted .252 last year. He's about where Darryl started in 1983.
Yeah, that's right.
Up in May.
When you look at the statistics of it.
Got him on strike. 2 big strikeouts by Roger McDowell. And the Reds are down without scoring. No runs a hit and 2 left. And after 6, it's still 5-2 New York. We'll be right back right after this word from Budweiser.
I have taken on many fighters and tried many beers. One beer isn't a class by itself. Light beer from Miller. Light tastes great and it's less filling. It weighs in at 1/3 less calories than the regular beer. Yes, I discovered your greatest beer, but I never met your greatest fighter. Hey, who is this Billy Martin anyway?
Billy Martin? He's warm, he's gentle, good looking too.
I got to meet this guy.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Well, Joe Price is the new pitcher for Cincinnati. As we go to the top half of the 7th inning, Price is 0 for 1 with a 1.86 ERA. His 8th appearance, no saves. He's worked only 9 2/3 innings, giving up 2 earned runs, a home run. He has walked 3 and struck out 10. And as we go to the 7th inning with the Mets leading at 5-2, back in to work the final 3 with me, here's Ralph Kiner.
Okay, Steve, it'll be Len Dykstra to lead off. Len has walked. He also is 0 for 2. Walked and scored in the 1st. The Mets got 3 runs in the 1st. It started on a leadoff walk. They got 2 runs in the 3rd. It started on a walk to Gary Carter. Joe Price in his 8th game. One time relief pitcher, then made a starter, now back to relieving. And the fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Strike 2, 1-2. You know, you're talking about Shotzi, the mascot of the Cincinnati Reds and personal friend of Marge Schott.
Close personal friend.
Close personal friend. Breaking ball, the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. The Mets had a mascot back in their early days, back in 1962. His name was Homer, and he was a beagle. And
perfect for the 62 Mets.
This ball hit foul back of home plate. Coming back as Buter, and he can't get to it. And Shotzi, of course, has his own office, but Homer was better off than that. Homer had a suite at the Waldorf Astoria, and his personal trainer was Weatherwax. Weatherwax was a man who trained Lassie. And Homer was trained to run the bases, and they worked on that for quite some time. They finally put him to the plate and gave him his first test. And he ran to first base perfectly. Then he cut across the middle of the diamond to 3rd and came on in home. Fit right in with the 1962 Mets. Fly ball out to right center field. Parker off. Also there is Davis. Parker, the bigger of the two, says, I got it. Davis, the center fielder, says, anything you want.
Just don't run into me. Well, I guess Homer could only do what he had seen others do before him, and that's why he was unsure as to how to run the bases. Whatever happened to Homer?
Homer decided he didn't like the work. And he was picked up by a fellow named Al Moore, who represented the beer company that was a sponsor of the New York Mets. And Homer lived with Mr. Al Moore and his family for quite some time. Then one day he just took off and left. Nobody ever heard of him since. Bouncy ball to shortstop, fielded by Concepcion. Backman on his way, but not in time as the throw beats him to the bag. So Wally Backman 1 for 4 after a base hit in the first. Good play by Concepcion.
And a close play at first. Backman hitting right-handed now. Not his strongest side. And Davey, although he's in an advanced age for shortstops in Major League Baseball, just nipped him by about a quarter step.
It was found out about Homer as you look at Concepcion that he didn't like to perform in front of crowds.
Good choice. I know where he went. He went back to that suite at the Waldorf.
He actually did have a suite at the Waldorf. He was living better than the Mets were in 1962. And the first pitch to Keith Hernandez, the strike call. Keith with a double and 2 runs batted in the first, robbed of a base hit on a sliding catch by Parker in the 5th. Also out of the ground ball back in the 3rd. And Price misses with a fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Keith with 10 RBIs so far this year. And the breaking ball. 2-1. They made the supreme sacrifice with Homer. They built a platform for him right back of home plate in the box seat section, and they had to take out about 12 seats. High fly ball to left center field, taken there by Saski, and the Mets go in order. So Price works a 1-2-3 inning, and the score at the end of 6.5 innings, the Mets 5, the Cincinnati Reds 2. Now here's a word from Singapore Airlines. The 7th, the Mets leading by a score of 5-2, and Dave Concepcion will be the leadoff batter. Dave has been on twice on walks, scored once, and grounded into a double play. And Roger McDowell starts off and misses, ball 1. McDowell came in the ball game in relief of Sid Fernandez and struck out the 2 batters he faced. And there is Franco throwing in the bullpen for Cincinnati. I'd like to pass on a hello to his family in Brooklyn. John Franco's family. John coming from Lafayette High School. Also attended St. John's University. 2 balls, no strikes. And a strike call, 2-1. Well, today in 1917, this day, the only double no-hit game was pitched. Both pitchers pitching a no-hit, no-run game through 9 innings. Ground ball to shortstop. Howard Johnson over to first, and Concepcion is out.
Tomorrow night, the Stanley Cup playoffs continue on Channel 9 when those unbelievable New York Rangers face off with the Montreal Canadiens. Tune in for all the action live at 8 p.m. Saturday right here on Chanel number 9.
That'll bring up Dave Parker back to that double no-hitter in 1917. Fred Toney was the pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, and Hippo Bond was pitching for the Cubs. They both pitched no-hit, no-run games. The Reds won it in the 10th inning, 1-0, and Jim Thorpe, the great Jim Thorpe, drove in the only run of that ball game. And Parker takes for ball 1. And in 1939, on this date, Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak ended at 2,130.
You know, Ralph, you hesitate to say this, given the fact that Babe Ruth's record has been eclipsed and Walter Johnson's strikeout record has been eclipsed, but Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak has got to be considered, I guess, the most unreachable record right now.
2,130 consecutive games. Top to the first base side, Keith Hernandez right there, and 2 men away. Also on this date, 1954, Stan Musial hit 5 home runs in a doubleheader. Sitting in the stands was Nate Colbert as a young boy watching that marvelous feat, the only time it had ever been done. Later on, Nate Colbert playing for the San Diego Padres at 5 home runs in a doubleheader against the Atlanta Braves. Here's Tony Perez, who might have been playing in that 1917 no-hit, no-run game. He's been around a long time. No, he's not that old.
Yes, Doggy took an 0 for 5 that day. No.
Tony will be 44 May 14th. And he and Pete Rose will be 44, and they both share first base. So they have 88 years when it gets to be May 14th of experience at first base. Chopped out to the shortstop. Again, Howard Johnson. And again, Hernandez makes the catch. And that retires the side. 5 in a row for Roger McDowell as he leaves the mound, and the score at the end of 7. The Mets 5 and the Cincinnati Reds 2. Now here's a word from Oldsmobile. Well, John Franco, the new pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. John coming in for his 11th game of the year. He has a record of no wins and no saves. He has had, I should say, no wins and no losses. He's had 2 saves. And he has an earned run average of 3.46. Franco last year, the ace relief pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds with a record of 12-3 and 12 saves. Won 11 straight decisions. And the first batter, Gary Carter, and the pitch, strike 1. Gary 0 for 2 tonight, a walk and a run scored. And that's ball 1, 1 ball, 1 strike. Franco started his career with the Dodgers, as did Sid Fernandez. So 2 left-handers, Sid Fernandez and John Franco, traded off by the Dodgers. Sasky has moved from left field to first base, and Max Venable has gone into left field. Batting order splits. And Carter fouls this one off the end of the bat. Hitting at 265. And the ball for ball 3. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Carter with 4 game-winning RBIs, tied for the National League lead. And this one chopped out on the third base side. Franco, a good play. The throw in the dirt on by Sasky down the right field line. Carter off to second base. And he goes in easily. So there will be an error on the play. And it could be a base hit. See how they score it.
Well, Gary just pounds it down in front of the plate. Franco got there in a hurry, and really he rushed it. Carter running on not the best of legs. And Gary not with a lot of speed even when his legs were sound. He just really rushed the play and overthrew the ball, threw it right down into the ground, and of course it allowed Carter to go on. They have not credited Carter with a hit. It's an error all the way on Franco.
So a runner at second with no one out, and Darryl Strawberry the batter, and that's ball 1. Strawberry in this game, a base hit and 2 times up. He also was walked intentionally back in the first inning when the Mets ended up with 3 runs. Ray Knight spoiling the strategy of Pete Rose by getting a 2-out base hit to drive in a run. No strikes.
That was the second error in the game charged to the Reds. The Mets have committed 1.
And a fastball right on through. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Darryl has now hit in 8 of his last 9 games. And he is also driven in 10 runs.
And another fastball. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Darryl coming off of his 5-for-5 game. First time that he had 5 hits in a ball game. That took place in Atlanta. And the count full at 3-2. Paid crowd here tonight, 20,677. To the count to Darryl Strawberry. Franco's pitch is fouled away. Mets have not had a base hit in this ball game since Foster's bloop single to right field. That followed a single by Darryl Strawberry. All 4. So runners now at first and second. Mets get their 5th walk of the game. 1 intentional. Make that 2 intentional. And it brings up George Foster.
The line on Gullickson, who started, he went 6 innings, charged with 5 earned runs on 5 hits. He struck out 4, and he walked 4. And those 2 intentional walks were given up by Gullickson as well.
So runners at first and second, no one out. And Foster the bat for the 4th time. George 1 for 3. Picked up a run batted in with his single in the 3rd inning. He goes after a bad pitch and strike 1. Foster has driven in 6 so far this year. Last year he drove in 77. Swing at a bad pitch is strike 2. John Franco on the mound in relief of Joe Price, who worked a 1-2-3 inning. Foster reported to spring training early this year. They asked him why, and he said the weather was bad in Cincinnati. He lives in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Well, if it was bad here, I guess it was bad there.
Almost went for another turnover screwball type pitch. But this time he does hold up in time, and the count 1-2.
George likes to extend his arms. He likes the ball over the plate, and consequently, especially when he has 2 strikes on him, he's very susceptible to pitches down and away.
And that one, a ball 2-2. Foster, if you didn't know him, puts you on an awful lot. You have to be really aware of what he says, because he says a lot of things in jest.
He has a very dry wit. Very tongue-in-cheek type of humor.
Says it with that straight face. Struck him out. So Foster, the first strikeout victim of John Franco.
Well, he nibbled. He got George to nibble outside a couple of times. Came back in on the pitch before. Now he goes outside again. And again, George tantalized by that pitch away. Unable to get it.
So now 1 out. Runner still at first and second. And Ray Knight the batter. Ray with a base hit in 2 official at-bats. He also has 2 runs batted in. That's ball 1. Carter, the runner at second base, reached there on a throwing error by the pitcher Franco, and Strawberry at first. Darryl walked in a 3-2 pitch. Mets leading 5-2, both sides with 5 hits. Good fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Ray a little upset with himself right there that he let that pitch go by. But it was a good fastball and a good location by Franco.
Knight leading the National League in home runs with 6. He's tied for the lead. Andre Dawson and Mike Marshall also have 6. And the fastball fouled back, 1-2. Ray Knight came into this game with a slugging percentage of .712, and that also leads the National League.
And he's picked up 2 RBIs tonight. He's second on the club to Gary Carter, who has 19 right now at 15.
One-two delivery, a fastball again. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You know, you were talking, Ralph, about how popular a player he was here. At first, he wasn't. They booed him at first because they were so sorry to see Rose go that anybody who came in and took Pete's place was going to have a tough time. But he had that fine year, as you mentioned before, hitting .318, and he really won the fans of Cincinnati over.
Fly ball out to left center field. Davis makes the call and the catch, and Carter goes back to second. Strawberry back to first. Now with 2 men out, the batter will be Walter Johnson. Should say Howard Johnson. Walter Johnson was a good hitter.
I was going to say, he could swing the bat.
Hit .444 one year as a pitcher.
Well, Hojo's hitting from the right side now. He entered the game as a left-handed hitter, hitting .429 and .357 overall.
Howard has struck out, and he also has flied out. Was walked intentionally back in the 6th. And strike 1. Johnson batted .242 last year with 11 home runs and 46 RBIs. One ball, 1 strike.
You know, Ralph, this has been a weird game from the standpoint that since the 3rd inning, as you mentioned earlier, the Mets without a hit since then. But even on both sides, guys have been getting on errors and walks. Each club has had base runners, but nobody's been able to come up with a base hit to drive anybody in.
It's a cold night here in Cincinnati. They predicted that there would be frost. There's 1 run driven in as Johnson hits it down the left field line. Carter scores easily. Strawberry goes to third. And on the double, Howard Johnson gets an RBI, and the Mets are leading by a score of 6-2.
All I had to do was bring it up, huh?
Right.
Well, Hojo's all over this pitch. Almost out in front of it a little too far, but he does get it inside the bag. And Carter, as you said, scoring easily. Strawberry just cruising into third, and Johnson with an easy double for Howard. His 5th RBI of the year. Here's Buddy Bell's attempt, but it's too sharply hit. Bell with a fine effort, but the ball just inside the line, and it was hit pretty hard.
And that'll bring up Roger McDowell batting for the first time, and he fouls off the first pitch. Roger has been up only once this year, and he has not had a base hit. That scored is unearned. This ball is fouled back out of play.
Well, we've had about everything you can have in this inning. We've had an error, a walk, a strikeout, a base hit, and a run scored.
And McDowell with a chance to drive in 2. Let's have a pitching staff that can hit. Ripped to left field. Scoring to Strawberry. Behind him, Johnson, and the play at the plate is not in time. The ball gets away, and McDowell ends up at third with a base hit and 2 runs batted in.
And great hustle on the part of McDowell, who goes to third because he never stopped nor even slowed down. He knew there'd be a play at the plate, so he was planning on going to second anyway. I mean, this is a rocket into left field, which is the reason why you might think that there might be a play at the plate on Johnson. But the throw is offline. Butera can't handle it, and John Franco is in the wrong place. He was not in a position to back up this throw. Look at Franco. You talk about taking it for granted. Franco, not hustling on the play, had plenty of time to get behind Butera. And what you want to do as a pitcher backing up home is line yourself up in line with the throw behind the catcher. Franco just jogging in leisurely. And that allowed McDowell to go on to third base easily on the play.
And unfortunately for the left fielder, an error charged to the left fielder.
Boy, that's a tough error.
Ball should have been handled by the catcher, and the error given to the outfielders. The Mets come up with 2 more runs. And the Mets leading now by a score of 8-2 with Lenny Dykstra the batter. Count of 1 ball and 1 strike. And this ball hit down the first base side. Saski there and takes it, and that'll retire the side. But the Mets get 3 runs on 2 hits. There were 2 errors and 1 man left on base. And the score at the end of 7.5 innings, the Mets 8 and the Cincinnati Reds 2. Now here's a word from Bush. Bottom of the 8th inning, the Mets leading by a score of 8-2, and coming back in for the play-by-play, Steve Zabriskie.
Thanks a lot, Ralph. It'll be Nick Saski to lead it off. Buddy Bell and Sal Butera to follow. Saski started the game in left field, now playing first base. And on the night, he is 0 for 2 plus a walk. His walk with the bases loaded in the first inning gave him his 6th RBI of the year. Roger McDowell in relief of Sid Fernandez. Ball 1. And the Mets with 3 unearned runs in the top of the 8th inning to push their lead to 8-2. There's that good sinker, 1-1.
The irony of the 3 unearned runs, the error was made by Franco, the pitcher. And the ERA and unearned runs are to help the pitcher.
That's a good way to keep your ERA down, right?
Right. He
Make
figured out a way to keep that ERA down.
Let those guys on free. That ball just missed. 2 balls, 1 strike. Well, the Reds are not going to be shut out tonight with their 2 runs in the first, but they have been shut out 3 times already this season and are batting just .217 as a team at the start of play. Only St. Louis at .205 has a worse team batting average than the Reds, and that's really been their whole problem. They are not swinging the bat. Well, they may be swinging the bat, but they're not making contact. 3-1 now to Saski. That sinker fooled him again, 3-2.
Now, when you're down by 6 runs and the count 3-1 and you swing at a pitch that's ball 4, you can't expect a whole lot.
Fouled off, still 3-2. Not good baseball. Down by 6, you better be looking for a base runner. Davy Johnson, Mel Stottlemyre to his right.
Imagine that, Davy Johnson. I'm high in the game of hearts, and he throws that queen of spades on me.
He did?
Yeah.
Taking no prisoners. I always play that you go for the low man, don't you?
Sure. Especially if you're the high man.
Foul back, it's still 3-2. Maybe Davy was the low man.
He was.
Aha, the real reason comes up. Trying to get you out of the game. 3-2. McDowell working to Nick Saski, leading off the bottom of the 8th. 8 runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the Mets. 2 runs, 5 hits, 3 errors for Cincinnati. And it's ball 4 high. So even though Saski ill-advisedly swung at the 3-1 pitch, he does work out a walk.
The action continues when the Mets challenge the Cincinnati Reds Sunday afternoon at 2. Join us for play-by-play coverage right here in Channel 9, the home of the Mets.
First walk issued by McDowell. In fact, the first batter to reach base against McDowell, who had retired all 5 he had faced. And here's Buddy Bell, who's 0 for 2 plus a walk. And a little bit high, ball 1. Sid Fernandez went 5 1/3. Giving up 2 earned runs on 5 hits. He struck out 6 and he walked 6. There's a strike, 1-1. Sid Fernandez in the last 21 1/3 innings has now struck out 22 batters.
He had a better strikeout ratio last year than Dwight Gooden. Sid averaged 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings.
Strike 2 call, 1-2. Bell not overly enamored with the call.
He didn't like that call at all. He's really having his problems this year. Back in 1979, he had 200 base hits and became one of 6 to have 200 base hits in the season and not bat 300. Batted 299.
He's now batting 151. Tapped right back to McDowell, who will try to go to second and does, and they get the lead runner as Asaski is forced, and he exchanges with Bell at first base, who reaches on the fielder's choice.
Good reaction by Roger McDowell. Gets to the ball quickly, but no chance for the double play. In fact, Wally Backman has to get out of the way to save his life. Sasky, a big, strong fella, comes in hard.
McDowell, an outstanding athlete, quick as a cat. And you could see on the replay how he positioned his body to throw to second while he was in the midst of fielding the ball in an effort to avoid a close play there. Here's Eddie Milner, who will be the pinch hitter for Sal Butera, the catcher. Milner hitting .227, no homers and an RBI. As a pinch hitter, he is 0 for 4.
A cousin to John Milner, former Met player.
Strike call. Eric Davis has sort of unseated John Milner as the regular center fielder here. Or Eddie Milner, I should say. Line drive, base hit, left field. Bell will stop. Oh, the ball gets by Foster. Now Bell on to third, and he may score. The relay from Johnson will not be in time, and it is now 8-3. It'll be a base hit and an error charged to George Foster.
Well, this will be the 5th error in the ball game. The ball hit hard to left. Of course, this is artificial turf. You get clean bounces, and the ball skipped right through the legs of George Foster. Now he has the job of getting the ball back in. Bell able to score all the way from first. That gives the Reds their 3rd run of the ball game, and Milner ends up at second base.
And the batter, Ron Oster, who is 1 for 3, a double back in the 2nd. And bunting for a base hit. He drags it down the line. It's a beautiful bunt, and he's safe at first base. And boy, what a close play that was. McDowell with a great job getting to the ball, and Hernandez with an equally fine play at the other end. But Oster beats it out, and the Reds have runners at first and third with 1 out.
Well, this is as good a bunt as you can make. Ball right down the line. McDowell has to go into foul territory to make the throw, and Keith Hernandez trying to stay on the bag. But Oster coming up with a bunt base hit, and on the play, Butera goes to, Milner goes to third.
And a fine call by first base umpire Dutch Rennard. You could see on the replay, Dutch adjust his position in order to make the call, and made the proper call. And here's Max Venable batting for the first time after entering the game when the double switch was made by Pete Rose. Venable with a drive into the right field corner. It's a fair ball. 1 run has scored. Oster rounding third, falls down. He might have been able to score, but Oster slipped. And Venable has an RBI double. It is 8-4 New York.
Well, after retiring 5 consecutive batters, McDowell starts off the inning by walking the first batter, and now the Reds starting to come back. This double by Venable in his first at bat in this ball game into the corner. Milner scores easily from third base. Oster can only go to third as he falls down. So Venable with a double. Runners now at second and third. And action in the bullpen for the Mets as Jesse Orozco starts to throw.
Still only 1 out. And here is Eric Davis, who's 0 for 4 and has struck out 3 times. Sinker is fouled away. Strike 1. McDowell has been touched for 2 runs on 3 hits. And it is 8-4 New York with 1 out, bottom of the 8th inning. are taking a minute to regroup behind the mound. And Ted Power is up and throwing in the Cincinnati bullpen. Strike on the outside corner. It's 0-2. Eric Davis, Ralph, has looked very tentative at the plate tonight, both against Fernandez and McDowell.
As you all pointed out earlier, as you look at Davy Johnson with that stoic look, he either hits it out of sight or he strikes out. He has hit some tremendously long home runs. Or a little bit of the toy cannon, Jim Wynn.
Boy, he does.
Jim Wynn?
Yeah. Houston Astro and Los Angeles Dodgers. He fights it off and bloops it down the right field line for a base hit. 1 run scores. Strawberry's throw comes into second base as the second run scores. And the Reds have come back to within 2. It is now 8-6 New York.
Gets Davy Johnson's attention. He's got to stall here because Orozco just started to throw. Davis here jammed with the fastball, hits it off the handle of the bat, but it drops in. 2-run score. Oster from second base and Venable from, I should say, from third base, and Venable from second base, and now the Reds are within 2, so they have the tying run at the plate. The batter coming up is Dave Concepcion, and McDowell in trouble.
4 hits in the inning, and 4 runs have scored. Concepcion is 0 for 2. He has walked twice and scored a run as Davis, who is 8 for his last 8 stolen base attempts and has 9 steals on the year, is chased back to first base. The Reds now with 9 hits. And the ball hits Davis and gets away, but not far enough for him to advance.
And as you pointed out, Steve, this has been a weird ball game.
I don't know what else we could see that we haven't seen tonight. All kinds of weird hits and plays and errors, base running. Davis is running. Carter's throw not in time. And Eric Davis 9 for 9 as he steals his 10th base of the year.
Well, he gets a good jump on McDowell. Pete Rose having the Reds run, even though they're down by 2 here in the 8th inning. And Davis in scoring position with his 10th stolen base of the year.
He is second in the National League to the Dodgers' Mariano Duncan, who has 12 stolen bases at the start of play. 1 ball, the count to Dave Concepcion. Ball 2. Dave Parker, the next scheduled hitter, a left-handed batter, and I'm sure that's what Davy Johnson is thinking about with Orozco ready in the bullpen. No double play possibility after the stolen base. There's Jesse. And still only 1 out. Concepcion with a base hit to left field. Davis will stop at third. And the Reds with runners at first and third with still only 1 out. The 5th hit in the inning off Roger McDowell.
And Davy going to the chewing tobacco as Parker loosens up in the on-deck circle. Orozco ready, so this will be the pitching change as Davy Johnson goes out and McDowell leaves. So Roger, after retiring 5 in a row, striking out 2 big ones in the 6th as he came in the ball game, being whacked here in the bottom of the 8th inning. So as McDowell leaves the ball game, we'll pause for this commercial message by Crazy Eddie. The new pitcher for the Mets. He has a record of no wins and no losses. He has picked up 3 saves. He has not allowed an earned run on his record. He has worked 9 2/3 innings, giving up only 4 hits. He has walked 6 and struck out 9, and he'll be working to the dangerous Dave Parker.
And Bo Diaz has come out on deck to pinch hit for the pitcher scheduled up next after Parker. So Eric Davis, the runner at third. Davy Concepcion, the tying run at first base. 8-6 New York with 1 out in the 8th inning. The inning started with a walk to Nick Asaski. Buddy Bell reached on a fielder's choice with Asaski being retired at second. And since then, off Roger McDowell, 5 consecutive base hits, one of which was a double, and 4 runs scored. So here's Parker, who is 1 for 4 on the night. He had a single and a run scored back in the first inning. Dave, 5 hits in his last 30 at-bats, and they have all been singles. So he has been struggling, hitting now .284 on the year. He was off to a tremendous start the first few weeks of the season. Ball outside.
The dangerous Dave Parker had a great year last year, hitting .312 with 34 home runs, and he led the league in RBIs with 125.
Had a weak swing, and it's 1-1. Orozco in relief of McDowell, who relieved Fernandez. Strike 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And Jesse has Dave Parker talking to himself. Concepcion running from first base as Parker fouls it off, and the count remains 1-2.
Concepcion representing the tying run, trying to get down in scoring position. The runner at third base is Eric Davis. And 1 man out as you look at Bo Diaz in the on-deck circle.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Parker. Way outside, and Carter just did come up with that ball as Davis inched his way down the third baseline.
More important, he kept the runner at first base. That tying run is the one you really worry about. And this is a good play by Carter, going after that curveball and knocking it down. Watch him come up. He looks at first base and then at third.
So 2-2 now to Parker. Fouled away again.
Parker has the ability to be fooled by pitches and foul them off, and all great hitters can do that. He has not had a good swing of the fastball yet, but he's still in there.
He got his base hit in the first inning when he was really fooled and tied up by a breaking ball that he just muscled into right center field. Concepcion running again. It's a ball. Parker takes the pitch. Carter does not throw. So runners at second and third, and a 3-2 count now on Parker. The tying run at second base. Strike 3 call. Parker can't believe it as Lee Wire made a late call Parker claiming the ball was inside. And he's getting his 2 cents in without being ejected.
Well, look at it again. It's very, very close, and Parker actually ducks down. He thinks this ball is out of the strike zone, and he goes right down with it. Look at that. Ball 4. Parker says he cannot believe that Lee Wire called that a strike. Hard shot. Who owns the ball club doesn't like it either. That's understandable. If looks could kill.
Very close pitch as Pete Rose looks on. But what's the old saying, Ralph? If it's close enough to call, it's close enough to swing at. Too close to take.
I wonder whoever said that. A pitcher? Had to be a pitcher.
Had to be a pitcher or an umpire. Bo Diaz in his first official at bat as a pinch hitter this year, hitting .250 so far. He does have 2 homers and 5 RBIs. Now 2 out, runners still at second and third. 8-6 New York here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Diaz, the 9th man to bat in the inning for Cincinnati. And a fastball for a strike, and it's 1-1. Nick Osaski, the on-deck hitter, he started it with a walk. A ball, 2-1. I seem to remember a couple of years ago, Ralph, when Bo Diaz was with Philadelphia. The Mets had been playing very well, and I think it was Jesse Orozco whom he faced with a dramatic game-winning 9th inning home run.
I believe it was Neil Allen.
Oh, was it Neil Allen?
One of the most devastating losses the Mets had, and that came early in the season in April.
I can remember a couple of other times when Bo Diaz has had some big hits against the Mets as well. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2 out. Diaz, as a matter of fact, a .321 career hitter against New York with 5 home runs and 22 RBI.
That grand slam home run came on April 13th. It was off Neil Allen. The Mets had 2 men out in the bottom of the 9th, and he hit the grand slammer to win the game.
It gets away from Carter. Eric Davis scores. Concepcion goes to third, and it is now 8-7 New York. And I would have to believe that'll be scored a wild pitch against Jesse Orozco.
Well, Jesse again with a breaking ball, and it was outside in the dirt. Here it is on the replay. Ball right down in the dirt and on by Carter. Carter doing all he could to try and block it. Davis scores. Concepcion goes to third, and now the time runners at third with the count 3 balls and 1 strike.
That run charged to Roger McDowell. Concepcion also his responsibility. 3-1 the count to Bo Diaz. And a fastball, ball 4. So the go-ahead run is now on base. The tying run less than 90 feet away. And Davy Johnson's back ailments have now been joined by some activity in the frontal part of his body, as his stomach is probably churning. And Nick Osaski bats for the 2nd time in the inning. Osaski 0 for 2. He has walked twice. A ball just missed inside. Carter unhappy now with Lee Wire, lets him know it. Eight to 7 New York. A high fly into short center field. Howard Johnson back, squeezes it, and the inning is over. But 5 runs score in the inning. And what was a lapper has turned into a one-run ball game as we go to the ninth, with the Mets leading the Reds 8-7 after this for Delta Airlines. With the score 8-7, New York leading after the Reds put a 5 spot on the board, 5 runs on 5 hits off Roger McDowell in the bottom of the 8th inning. And Cincinnati with a new pitcher, their 4th of the night, Ted Power.
Power with a record of no wins and 2 losses. He has no saves this year. He has an earned run average of 6. He has worked 6 innings. He has given up 13 hits, allowed 4 earned runs. This is his 8th appearance. And the hard-throwing right-hander will be pitching to Wally Backman as his first batter.
And Backman now back around to the left side after batting right-handed his last time up. Wally is 1 for 4. A single, a run scored, and a stolen base. Hernandez at Carter to follow. Top of the ninth, New York by 1. Dave Concepcion, moves from shortstop to first base. And Kurt Stillwell into the game at short here in the 9th inning, the highly touted Cincinnati rookie. Ball high and away. Fastball in there for strike 1. 1-1 to Wally Backman.
Power also a pitcher that originally signed with the Dodgers.
Grounded into hole. Stillwell with his first chance, and a long throw does not get Wally Backman. Walter hustling down the line to beat it for an infield base hit. Hit number 8 for New York.
Stillwell makes a good play on this ball, makes it close, gets set very quickly, fires at the first, but Backman out of the box. Wally can get down that line at about 3-7 from the left-hand side. And Stillwell, a highly touted shortstop, the heir apparent to Concepcion, who makes the catch at first base.
So Wally at first with nobody on for Keith Hernandez, who is 1 for 4. Keith with a double to drive in 2 runs back in the first. Later scored as well. And Backman running on the first pitch, and it's fouled off for strike 1. So the Mets want to take a little insurance into the ninth, trying to get Backman into scoring position. Davey Johnson hitting and running, or running and hitting to start the ninth. Backman not running this time, and it's tight for ball 1, 1-1. And now time called as Concepcion goes in to talk to Power. New pitcher, new first baseman, not a bad idea with the runner at first.
Power was the only 20-game winner in organized baseball, minor leagues and major leagues, back in 1981. That was the strike year. Nobody in the major leagues won 20 games. He and the minors won enough there and picked up 1 win in the major leagues.
Low and inside, 2 balls, 1 strike. Hernandez has hit in 7 straight games, including tonight. He has scored 7 runs and driven in 5 during those 7 games. And his average now at 297 on the year. Then Backman draws a throw. Good count on which to run here. 2 balls, 1 strike. And Backman running, and it's 3-1. And the throw in time. Fine play by Bo Diaz as he came out of the chute in a hurry and gunned down Wally Backman.
Well, Backman with a very short lead, and Diaz making a very quick throw, and an accurate throw picks up the out at second base. You like to run on a catcher when he just comes in the game. This time, Backman with that short lead off, unable to get down there to beat the throw. So Diaz with a thrown out on the good side for the Cincinnati Reds.
And the Reds have had good success at throwing out runners so far this year. Hernandez takes ball 4, so the Mets will have a runner at first base once again, now with 1 out. And they obviously give up a little speed in exchanging Backman for Hernandez, and Gary Carter will be the hitter.
Reds catchers have been successful throwing out runners 43% of the time, and that's a very high percentage. 30% is considered about average.
Carter is 0 for 3, I should say. He has walked once. He has scored 2 runs after walking in the 3rd and reaching on an error in the 8th. And those 3 unearned runs scored by New York in the 8th looming awfully large now. Ball 1. And a strike on a fastball, 1-1. Carter has driven in 12 runs in the last 11 games. Entered the day tied for second in the National League with 19 RBIs. Johnny Ray of Pittsburgh leading with 21. Power steps off. Carter and Mike Schmidt each have 19 at the start of play today. Shot foul outside of 3rd, and the count 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Mets scored 3 in the 1st, 2 in the 3rd, and 3 more in the 8th. Cincinnati with 2 in the 1st and 5 in the bottom of the 8th. 8-7 New York, 1 out, top of the 9th inning. Ground ball up the middle. It could be 2. Stillwell to Oster to Concepcion, and the inning is over. The Reds turn their second double play of the night, and we'll go to the bottom of the 9th with the Mets clinging to a precarious 1-run lead after this for U.S. Healthcare. Try to save it for the Mets. 8-7 New York leading, bottom of the 9th inning. Jesse coming in to pitch the final 2/3 of the 8th, picking up a strikeout and getting the final out on a pop-up in short center field, handled by Howard Johnson, the shortstop. McDowell pitched 2 innings total, charged with 5 runs on 5 hits. He struck out 2 and walked 1. Buddy Bell will lead it off against Jesse. Bell is 0 for 3 plus a walk. He has struck out, popped to second, reached on a fielder's choice, and scored a run. And his average is now down to 148. Fastball for strike 1. Kurt Stillwell is on deck, and Ron Oster scheduled up 3rd. There's Kurt. Fastball popped up into short right field. Strawberry and Hernandez going after it, and no one can get it as it falls in foul territory. Darrell might have had a shot at that ball had Hernandez not been so close. Darrell sort of had to hold up a little bit to avoid a collision.
Darrell coming up here. This is a very difficult play. You see Strawberry looking at Keith Hernandez. Darrell figured he couldn't get to it, so he was hoping that Keith could, but Keith couldn't either, so it drops in there.
And it landed right on those mounds in the bullpen, and that's really dangerous to be running around over those things. So 0-2. 1-2. breaking ball just missed. 2-2.
This is a very sharp breaking ball. Jesse calls it a slider, but it breaks really too much to be a slider. It's a hard curveball. Just did miss with it. Jesse's throwing the ball very well now. This spring, he did not throw that biting curve.
Fastball lofted to left field. Foster with room, and he is there. One away in the ninth. So that'll bring up young Kurt Stillwell. Stillwell on the year hitting .286. No homers, 1 RBI. He's had 6 hits and 21 times at bat. One out, nobody on. New York nursing a 1-run lead in the ninth. Fastball right in there. 0-1.
Stillwell, another Southern California player. He was the player of the year in high school. Lives in Thousand Oaks, Southern California.
Fouls off the breaking ball, and it's 0-2. He stole in high school 50 bases in 52 attempts. Granted, that was high school ball, but that's still some kind of success ratio.
Batted .552 his senior year. He was selected number 2 in the country by the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, baby. Just did hold up on the breaking ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Let's take a look at this again. Curveball. Lee Wire, the home plate umpire, said it went around the plate.
It was around the plate, all right. Fastball is high, and it's now 2-2. Pete Rose has the jacket off and a bat in hand.
Well, Pete's not afraid to put himself into a tough situation.
Jesse Orozco strikes out Stillwell for the 2nd out here in the 9th inning. 2nd strikeout for Jesse.
Well, Jesse goes back to the fastball after he didn't get the call on the curve, and this one right in the zone. Stillwell can't make it. So now the Mets are not away from picking up the victory.
And it's up to Ron Oster. Oster with a good night, 2 for 4, a double, a single, and a run scored. Bunted his way on with a beautiful bunt base hit in the 8th inning. And Pete Rose has come out on deck. 2 out, nobody on, bottom of the 9th with New York leading 8-7.
Rose doesn't play against left-hand pitching, and he's going to have to bat against the left-hander if he gets up.
I doubt it. Howard Johnson throws out Ron Oster, and the Mets hold on to win it. New York wins at 8-7 as Jesse Orozco comes in to pick up his 4th save of the year, and Sid Fernandez, who started and went the first 5 1/3, is the winner. His record is now 3-0. Bill Gullickson, the Cincinnati starter, is the loser, and he is 0-3 on the year. Ralph and I'll be back to wrap it up. Tim standing by with an interview for you, so stay with us from Cincinnati, where the Mets have gotten back on the winning track, beating the Reds 8-7. Now here's a word from Michelob Light.